What's up? This is E.J. Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is E.J. Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. This is going to be a fun show we got for you today. Of course, we will be talking about the latest news we got just this morning as we learned that franchise tagging Kenneth Walker will not be happening for the Seattle Seahawks, which means Kenneth Walker is expected to become an unrestricted free agent. He, of course, is the Super Bowl MVP from this past season. So we'll break down what that means for the Seahawks, what that means for the rest of the league in just a moment. We also have one Chiefs star who's putting his name out there as someone who is vouching for Tyreek Hill, the recently cut wide receiver from the Miami Dolphins. So I want to get into that because I said last night that I don't think that it makes sense for many teams to be after Tyreek Hill at this point in time in his career. Are the Chiefs one of the teams that can make that gamble? We'll talk about that. Also, interesting stuff coming out of the Giants kind of coaching situation. We learned over the weekend that John Harbaugh had admitted that he has spoken to Rex Ryan as a potential defensive coordinator hire before, of course, going ahead with Denard Wilson. So with Rex Ryan, that made sense in New York. We'll talk about that. We got a list coming at you. I'm going to give you my 5 must-watch players to watch MLB this season. To be clear, I'm not going to tell you Aaron Judge, right? I'm not going to tell you Shohei Ohtani. The goal is to find some of the next stars that will be coming up through the pipe. And I think there are a lot of young players in MLB this year that are going to be really exciting to watch. So I want to get your eyes on these guys early this year. I can't believe this is happening. I love the sport of boxing too much to actually even be able to wrap my head around something like this. But at 59 years old, Mike Tyson will be fighting 48-year-old Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match, apparently. I don't know what to say about boxing, man. It's the ultimate giveth and taketh sport. There's so much good that comes out of it. You had it wasn't an awesome fight, but an awesome display in the Shakur Stevenson Teofimo Lopez fight. And then months prior, of course, you had Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. But then you also had the awesome fight from last year where you had Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. So it's the ultimate giveth and taketh. This is, I think, the taketh when it comes to just bizarre scenarios and bizarre nature of the overall sport. So we'll talk about Mike versus Floyd a little bit later. And finally, I've mentioned it before, man. I said it a bunch. Love is Blind is out. If you know anything about me, you know anything about how much I love this show. Reality TV is an aspect of this show. It will continue to be an aspect of this show. So we will talk about Love is Blind, this new season that just dropped. 6 episodes. And I'll give you a little small, short recap. I'm not going to go crazy, but a little short recap of some of the things I saw from this past weekend. So 40 Days, 40 Nights coming at you again. This is day 17. We are really coming down to the wire here. Of course, if you're watching this show, thank you. I appreciate you. We're streaming live multiple spots, including streaming live on YouTube. New Generation Media is where you'll find us on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, subscribe to me on X, or follow me on X rather, EJ_Stewart. We are streaming live on X. And because I just hit the button just now, I now know that we are streaming live on Instagram. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram. And of course, you can catch all of our episodes on the podcast channel. Last night we had Dexter Henry on there. He was phenomenal. I know there might have been some mic issues. I don't know if I completely straightened them out, but it looks like my mic level is a lot better today. So apologies if my mic levels were a little low with David Shepard in the morning and Dexter Henry in the evening. Should have been, I think, listenable. You should have been able to watch it, but I know I was a little low. Might need to get a new soundboard. Maybe the soundboard's being on the fritz because I've been doing these 2 shows per day, and then the soundboard's like, yo, enough, bro. Like, enough. Do something else. But nonetheless, those were awesome interviews. The David Shepard episode is up. The Dexter Henry episode is not up quite yet, but it will be up after this program, shortly after. And of course, this episode will be up shortly after. So make sure you head over to our podcast channel. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Just search New Generation Podcast Network to get all of the shows of 40 Days and 40 Nights, along with all the other content we do for New Generation Media. So let's get right to it, man. And this is kind of breaking news coming out in the morning. So we got news that Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP for the Seattle Seahawks, who dominated the game and really was the one standout offensively for really either team playing in this game between the Seahawks and the Patriots, he's going to be a free agent. According to Adam Schefter this morning, there are no plans for Kenneth Walker to be retained in terms of a franchise tag. So what does that essentially mean? So let's break it down here. I'm going to try to get some of the article up so you can actually see for yourself some of the things that will be going on. But he's unlikely to be franchise tag, which means he's going to be a free agent. And what that comes is a cost, if it was a franchise tag, at $14.5 million. I want to share my screen so you can actually see some of this stuff I'm talking about. But this is a guy who obviously was a former, I think, second-round pick for the Seahawks. Again, if you franchise tagged him this year, he would have cost $14.5 million, while the transition tag would have come at $11.7. They are doing neither. He's going to be a free agent this upcoming season. So Walker, I know my screen is black. I'm hoping this pops up so you can see this. If not, I'll just go through it just here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it wants to show up for some reason. This is always so on the fritz when it comes to. Sometimes I can share my screen, sometimes I can't, and it's really annoying. This one doesn't look like it wants to show today. So, all right. So we'll give up on that for now. Maybe we'll try again later. But more or less, essentially, again, like I said before, $14.5 million would be the franchise tag, $11.7 million would be the transition tag, and they have a lot of free agents that they need to re-sign this offseason. They also have to try to extend Jackson Smith and Jigba. So with the emergence of Zach Charbonnet, it seems like the Seahawks are going to be willing to kind of play hardball with Kenneth Walker, and I think they're prepared to let him walk. I'll be honest, like for a guy who had that kind of production this year, he ran for 1,200, he ran for over 1,000 yards. He's been one of the more consistent backs in the NFL, though I think this year he took it up a notch. I look at this and I think, man, I don't think we're going to see Kenneth Walker back in the Seattle Seahawks uniform next year. We know the situation with running backs, right? Like teams just think these guys are replaceable, and they think they could find another one. They think they may already have somebody. Again, Zach Charbonnet, who was awesome this year. But man, like Kenneth Walker, I thought really distinguished himself in this playoff run. His patience, his understanding of setting up blocks. I mean, if you're ranking him on the top running backs, I think he's top 10. I think that feels fair at this point in time. I don't know if you're just finding another Kenneth Walker just falling off a tree. It's not like they're going to be. I don't think this is the greatest running back draft. I feel like obviously Jeremiah Love, somebody that's going to go super high. But when I think of the NFL draft, I don't think of this as a draft that's going to be loaded at running backs. I would love to see the big board currently running backs. Let me pull this up. Because that's essentially, I think, what you're probably going to see them do. Is you're going to say, all right, we're going to let Kenneth Walker go, and then maybe we'll take another running back in the second round of this upcoming draft because we feel like we could get away with getting another guy in here who can do what Kenneth Walker did, or maybe kind of combine kind of what Kenneth Walker did compared to and Charbonnet and whatever the running back is, Charbonnet stepping up in the starting spot. We can still kind of piece together some similar production. It's not the craziest idea, but I think it does come with a little bit of risk. I'm actually curious about where Kenneth Walker may land now that he probably won't be back. So, again, do you take Jadarian Price from Notre Dame, Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson? These are some of the top guys. Seth McGowan, Nicholas Singleton from Penn State. I mean, these are now, when you get past, Coleman and Price and Johnson, you're really talking about day 3, day 4 type guys. So this is not a super deep running back draft. So I'm curious if they try to sign somebody cheaper. I'm curious if they decide to potentially make a trade maybe for somebody. But Kenneth Walker will not be franchise tagged this week, which is just a bit of a surprise to me. I mean, again, I know they got a lot of guys to pay, and I know Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to come with a huge number this year because of how well he played, and they can't afford to lose him. What Schefter had wrote in his article and in his tweets is that there'll be Super Bowl tax costs for the Seahawks, that they'll also have to deal with, and that is part of the reason why Kenneth Walker won't be re-signed. I'm trying to think of teams that might make sense for Kenneth Walker on out there in terms of teams that may need a running back this year. One of the things I thought about was Cincinnati. I don't know how much Chase Brown this year after a awesome 2024 really kind of stunk it up this year for most of the season. I don't know what happened to him this year, but Cincinnati now, them spending any money on anything other than defense seems crazy, but they're a team I thought about that maybe could upgrade in the running game. I would wonder, looking at some of the other teams, the Tennessee. I saw Tennessee, people putting names on Tennessee. I already saw people putting a Tennessee Titans jersey on Kenneth Walker. They definitely need a running back, and they should have cap space. Does Kenneth Walker want to go from the best team in the NFL to arguably the worst team in the NFL? If he's paid enough money, I'm sure that'd be fine. That'd be really good for Cam Ward. You can get him a top-notch running back. I think that'd be awesome to pair with Cam Ward and what they're trying to build there in Tennessee, starting brand new. By the way, y'all see Tennessee is apparently bringing back the Oiler color scheme for their uniforms this upcoming year. I don't mean throwbacks. I mean they're actually going to change the color scheme and logo for this year. The Titans of old, the light blue and navy blue that they've been rocking since their inception, essentially different uniforms but same color scheme, that apparently is going away, and they're going to be going to an Oiler style helmet and color scheme, which is it's an awesome color scheme. Like we miss it, and we miss the Oilers. I don't know if we love it being with Tennessee. That's the part of it I'm not crazy about, but yeah, that's the only thing that is still a bummer. Is really the Houston legacy, the Oiler legacy should belong to the Texans or anybody that's playing in Houston, not Tennessee. But the Adams family has held on to that, with their life, basically, because they know how much money they make on merch. So they ain't never giving up that stuff. So now apparently they're going to really make it official and make it impossible for that to ever happen, because now their actual colors are going to be the Oiler colors. So I didn't see Kenneth Walker wearing those colors. I don't think everyone's fully adept at knowing that there's going to be a uniform change this year. But Tennessee, I think, would be a team that certainly makes sense. Do the Chargers make sense? The Chargers have a ton of bread. I know they just drafted a running back, though, so I don't think that makes sense. They do have a lot of bread. I do wonder if maybe they want to pair Hampton and Walker maybe together in the backfield if they really wanted to go after it. Anyone else? I'm trying to look at these other teams. Jerry Jones, Dallas, they're always intriguing. Javonte Williams was pretty good last year. I don't know if they need to do that. Maybe Washington. I can see Washington. I know they like Lil Bill, but that would certainly be an upgrade for sure. There's going to be teams out there. There's going to be a market for him. There are enough teams that definitely he would be an upgrade for. What I will say is I think that wherever Walker goes, if he does leave, he's going to a much worse situation. I think it's almost impossible. I think all the top teams, none of them I think really need upgrades at running back. I don't think you're going to see him in Chicago, Detroit, or Green Bay. I don't think you'll see him in Philly. I don't think you'll see him with the Rams or the 49ers. I saw my guy Rob DeRay was in the chat already saying Kyron Williams, 3 years, $33 million seems like a reasonable agreement to bring him back. But that's back on the back of a playoff run. He was heading a 1 year. He was ready for a 1 year prove it deal without it. Yeah, I mean, 1 year prove it deal. I mean, I think I said this before, Rob, and I said this a couple weeks ago, prior to the Super Bowl. I think after the Super Bowl game, I felt like Kenneth Walker's career was good but underwhelming. I think there was an expectation that when he came out of Michigan State and he was the best running back in college football, that he would step in and maybe become the best running back in the NFL. And his production has been there. He's good. It's just he's been a little injury prone. He hasn't. I don't know if he still has played 17 games this season yet. So I don't know if he was going for a prove-it year. Because I think somebody would have took a flyer on because there's been production. But certainly now that he had the playoff run that he had, where he put the running game on his back when Charbonnet went out, certainly, yeah, he's going to make a lot of money. 3 years, $33 million. That will put them at $11 million. My thing is, why not sign the franchise tag then? Or the transition tag is at 11.9? 11.7, the transition tag. Why not put that on him if the 3 years, $33 million would be a possibility? That would, I guess, he's got to sign it, obviously, or he's got to figure that out. That would be, I guess, my question. $14 million is a lot for a running back. Let me see highest AAV for running back in the NFL. Let's see what the top guys are at this point. But 14, that would be the number that they have to work with. And considering, again, they have to re-sign guys, that will be quite a bit. So that would make him the fourth highest running back, paid running back in the NFL. Because Saquon's making 20, Christian McCaffrey. I would show you guys my screen so you can see this list. But again, I'm a little worried that this thing is not working that great. I'll try one more time since maybe it's woken up a little bit since the last failure trying to do this. But Saquon's making 20. Christian McCaffrey's making 19. You have Derrick Henry making 15. It's crazy that the guys that are making the most money are the oldest guys. These guys are ancient. So these guys, Alvin Kamara's on this list. Here we go. Hey, now you guys can see that. So here you go. So you can see on my screen here. I'm glad it's working now. So Saquon's making $20 million a year. Christian McCaffrey at 19. Derrick Henry at 15. You got Jonathan Taylor then at 14. Then Kamara's at 12. Josh Jacobs at 12. James Cook is at 11. So yeah, I have to assume he probably was asking for 15. That's what I would think, is that he's asking for 15. And if he's asking for 15, I suspect that somebody out there, because these agents talk, they know what these teams are going to offer their guys. I assume somebody out there is putting the word out, hey, we'll give you at least $15 million a year. So I think that's probably what's happening here. But that's a blow. If he does walk, that's definitely a blow. And what I hate about sometimes, and they do this stuff on purpose. Now, you can see this article now that I had up earlier. But this was essentially, again, the paragraph I was trying to highlight, which was this right here, which is that, again, he's slated to become free agent for the first time in March after playing the final year of his rookie contract at $2 million. The projected cost of the franchise tag is $4.5 million, while the transition tag will come at $11.7. And by the way, one good point here that Schefter made was that the Seahawks have only used, and Brady Henderson also contributed to this article, the Seahawks only used the franchise tag twice in 16 years under John Schneider. So he's not a franchise tag guy. So I don't know, is there any teams you want to see Kenneth Walker on next year if he's not on the Seahawks? In chat, you want to get involved, certainly you can. But definitely some doubt potentially whether or not Kenneth Walker will return because the franchise tag will not happen. If they can get that 3-33, that would be great, obviously, for the Seahawks. I'm curious if he's going to sign on to that. Because like Rob does make a good point. Like 3 for 33 maybe would have made sense had he not won Super Bowl MVP. I think Kyron Williams and him have been essentially on the same level for the last couple of years. This year, I feel like, is the year he kind of went past the Kyron Williams kind of money. Another funny chat here. Don't you talk about new generation champion Chase Brown, who took me to the promised land as my running back. One, shame on you, EJ. Chase Brown was kind of terrible to start this year. I'm sorry. As someone who was following him because he was great for me the previous year, I picked him up on the scrap heap. I'm sorry. Tracy Brown was. I do not think he was it this year. The Bengals had one of the worst running games in the NFL to start the season. So I don't know how you won a championship with him. To be honest, he was leading your team in my fantasy league. Rob's one of my fantasy football players. See, what's amazing is Jared Jones' equity in the Dallas Cowboys goes up much faster than his payroll does. His equity goes up over $3 million a day. Yeah, Jerry Jones, I don't know. I still got over the cap up. I want you guys to see this because I don't know. First of all, I don't know how any of these teams do this. Like, figuring out NFL cap space, it feels like you need a degree from MIT to actually fully understand it. But I want you guys to see this, and hopefully my share screen will share again. Because I always go back to Over the Cap because I'm doing various things for various shows and just talking football. And, of course, now I want to go black again. But hopefully you'll be able to see this soon. But what you'll see when it comes up is the Cowboys, after not re-signing him, after trading Michael Parsons, after doing all this work and said they have no money, according to Over the Cap, they're still $30 million over the salary cap. Now, of course, that's not sure. I feel this is like the WB Frog, where it's, sometimes when you're not looking, it works perfectly. Or when I don't need it as much, it works perfectly. And when I do need it, it doesn't work as well. I'll try one more time and just see. Let me see if I can try this one more time. Okay. Open Sesame. There you go. But yeah, look at this. $30 million. How do you fix that? Like, I actually would love to know, how do you fix being $30 million over the cap without getting rid of your best players? Because it's not like the Cowboys have like a bunch of guys making a crazy amount of money. It's really two. It's CeeDee Lamb and it's Dak Prescott. Now there are a lot of guys making like 15 and 20. Like, I don't know, Osa is someone that they're gonna have to move on from, or I don't know. They also, by the way, they just traded for Quinn Williams, who also was up for a contract extension. But then teams figure it out. They find a way to like say, oh, we're going to put this money here. Now your salary is a roster bonus, or your salary is whatever. So it's hard to really understand. But this is the Cowboys sheet right now. You got Dak making 40. You got CeeDee Lamb making 25. And then Tyler Smith 23, Quinn Williams 20. And they got guys making money, but it's not, I don't think it's like to the point where it's like, oh, you should be $30 million over the cap coming into this year. So they're going to have to figure that out. So again, I guess Kenneth Walker is really not really a viable player for the Cowboys this year, considering their cap number is insane. And they have to cut salary right now, not actually create salary. Or rather add salary to the situation. So, yeah, I'm curious if the Seahawks find a way to get it done. If I was Kenneth Walker, I know this. I mean, he's already won a championship and he was the MVP, so maybe this is a chance to just get paid. But I just think as a running back, given the short lifespan of your career, if you actually do want to try to have a longish career, I don't know if I'm just running to Tennessee or somebody that has a ton of money. Again, there are a lot of teams with a ton of money. I can actually go back to this so you can see real quickly one more time some of the teams that will have bread this offseason. And let's screw up again. Let's try it one more time. Okay, maybe that's the thing. Maybe I just got to click it and click back again. But yeah, I mentioned Titans. They got $104 million in cap space. And they have a massive void of running back. So I would assume the Titans will be involved. Rays have Ashton-Jeanty. That doesn't make sense. Chargers, again, they have Hampton. I don't know. They have $80 million, but I don't know if they're going to spend it on a running back. They should put everything to the offensive line. And then maybe a medical staff, if you could put that in salary cap. Jets have $79 million. They got a decision to make with Breece Hall, so I don't think they're a liability. Again, I mentioned Bill Krosky-Merritt. He would be someone that maybe Commanders I could see. And Seahawks have $63 million, but again, they got a lot of guys they got to sign in. And Jackson Smith's probably going to make up about 30, 35 million of that. So that's kind of like a fake number there. Bengals have bread. Again, team that I considered. Rams don't make sense. Steelers. Do the Steelers make sense? No, I don't think so. He's good. I don't know if he's a big enough up. He's a pretty big upgrade, I think, from Kenneth Gainwell in yeah, but I don't know if they're spending that on a running back. I would say no. You know, so yeah, I'm looking at these teams. Cardinals, they certainly could use a running back. I don't know if they're spending money like that. So those would be the teams I think you would definitely consider at this point in time for Kenneth Walker. But he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So we'll see how that shakes out. These teams have until March 3rd to franchise tag guys. The fact that this guy announced this early, what I found weird about this report is that, like, all it says is they're not franchise tagging him. I'm like, all right, well, are they going to sign him to a long-term deal? And there's no word about that. That makes me believe that they're like, we're moving on from him after this year, just because of just me reading in between lines. Like, I remember, I don't know if I should give away this game, but I'll give it away anyway. This is whatever. I remember when I was in grad school, my former professor, who was B.J. Schechter, he was like my sports professor, my sports journalism professor. Shout out to B.J. Schechter, great dude. He was the executive editor at Sports Illustrated when I was at Newmark School. Now he teaches. He was teaching at Seton Hall. He may have started his own program at Seton Hall. He's, again, a great guy. I remember he told me a story about, or told the whole class about how, if you ever want to know, there's certain tea leaves to read when you're reading an actual sports article to know where things are coming from. And he said one of the giveaways is always, if you read sources say blah, 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 and then very next line is team or person like declined to comment, most of the time, the person that declined to comment is also those sources. Whether it's that actual person who wanted to be on background, or if it was somebody, you know, within their camp that is presenting that. But the side that is presenting whatever story you're saying, if the next line is they declined to comment, it's usually coming from them. So me just so there's things you gotta do to read in between the lines of reporting sometimes. When you put out an article, you're not franchise tagging a guy, and then the next line isn't the Seahawks hope to have a long-term deal with him. That tells me that there's probably not a deal coming. That's just, again, my read of it. It's the NFL, and also I'm totally speculating, so I could be 100% wrong. But when you do this long enough, you kind of can read between the lines. So I'll be curious to see what ends up happening with Kenneth Walker. You got Bob Custer saying this may be a negotiation ploy. The man is still young. He's only 25, so in running back, he is probably at least 4 more good seasons. Yeah, that's why if I was an NFL team, I would be fine with paying him. I mean, think about like the Eagles paid Saquon. I know Saquon and Derrick Henry are Hall of Famers, but I'm just saying though, these guys are old. Like compared for running backs, like these guys did not have many years left, and they got a lot of money. And you could argue maybe this year showed that those were not the greatest investments, but there's no reason I think to believe that Kenneth Walker's best days still may be in front of him. At least maybe the next year or two may still be in front of him. So if I was Tennessee, I would definitely throw this bag at him. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would say, yeah, you're not gonna get a much big. I would still draft the guy maybe in the second round, but you're not gonna get a much bigger upgrade. I think at running back through a trade or through anything else, and you got $100 million in cap space and no guys you're really committed to in terms of guys you have to bring back on this team, but they suck. So I would throw this bag at Kenneth Walker and sleep well if I was Tennessee. Now Tennessee is a well-run organization, so is Kenneth Walker going to go there? Do they find a way to screw this up? I don't know. But if I had to kind of pinpoint a team that I think would maybe make sense for Kenneth Walker next year, I would certainly say it will be Tennessee, I think. Yeah, it will be interesting. It will be interesting. I'm curious to see how this moves forward. I want to shift gears here. I want to talk about something I talked about a little bit yesterday, but we got more on this. Could Tyreek Hill, oh my God, it's low thirds all over the place. Could Tyreek Hill be seeing a return to Kansas City? So you had Chris Jones, after the news was put out that Tyreek Hill was out in Miami, he put out a tweet that said something, I believe, on the lines of like, it's about time, or, it's time to come home, something like that. Which obviously is him putting it out there that he believes that the Chiefs should go after Tyreek Hill. Now, I think Tyreek Hill, coming off of a devastating knee injury, and him simply being Tyreek Hill, I don't really quite understand what the appeal for him is at this point, unless you're a super desperate team. And I don't think that the Chiefs are in a position where they should be super desperate at this point in time. I don't love their receiving core, but it's not like they have scrubs at the receiving core. And I think one of the things I feel like for the Chiefs, I think to be honest, I think it showed itself a lot more this year, is they need like a real true ace number one receiver. And I'm not talking about like a number one receiver that's like a guy who is like another short 5'11" guy. Like, to me, like I want them to get like a true 6'1", 6'2" guy. I know they have Rashee Rice, but like someone else like that. Like, they've had enough of these little speed guys. And the reason why I think that this is important for this team is because you never needed another one of those guys, because you always had Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce ended up being your like de facto big target guy in terms of like not like a lot of targets. I mean, like big is like massive, right? Like, you didn't need another one of those bigger possession receivers, because you had Kelce. You had the best guy you could possibly have, really. So for receivers, they often looked for little quicker guys who can win down the field. Or even like a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who's tall but skinny and slight. Like, Rashee Rice is probably the only guy who brings a little bit more of that dynamic, but I don't know. I don't want another one of these little guys. I think the Chiefs, they got to evolve in terms of what they're looking at with that wide receiver position. So I don't love the Tyreek Hill fit. I look at him, I'm like, I don't know. Xavier Worthy is faster than him, is younger than him, and does not have a torn ACL and dislocated kneecap. And by the way, it doesn't have any of the off the field baggage that this guy comes with. And that's another thing with the Chris Jones thing that kind of, I don't really care about the Chiefs, so they can do whatever they want. But for a team that has had this much weird off the field stuff, I also find it kind of nasty that he's like, it's time to bring back Tyreek Hill. It's like, oh, come on, guy. Like, you guys were basically acting like, like Rashee Rice was like some guy that was being railroaded by the league for mistakes that he made. You're wearing free Rashee Rice shirts, which was a truly poor display. And Chiefs had a couple of moments for a team that has the pedigree that they have and what they've accomplished in the league. They've done a couple of things where they seem to kind of want to overlook things off the field that I think are really kind of embarrassing. I thought that was one of the most embarrassing moments of the season, and I think they kind of earned all of the bad luck that they had with stuff like that. To run into let's bring back Tyreek Hill, I'm like, you guys have had enough issues, man. The last thing I think you need to do is bring back a guy with the issues that he's had. And like I said before, are you convinced that Tyreek Hill is matured? Are you convinced that Tyreek Hill is ready to become a new man? I hate this aspect of sports where you have to kind of like, because I think the best thing about being a sports commentator is you get to kind of try to like separate yourself from whatever's being talked about in terms of a guy's personal life, right? Like that's their personal life. You don't know anything about that. So we just, that's why sometimes it's shocking when we see certain things happen that we don't expect because we think guys are certain people, like Deshaun Watson being one of the biggest examples. Like anyone that's interviewed Deshaun Watson or been around him will tell you that it was stunning to hear about the terrible things that he was accused of in these massage parlors. So, but one of the things about sports that I do like is that we try to separate whatever your personal stuff is from evaluating your game and your contributions to a team as much as possible. This is just a person that you can't do that with. You just can't. Because they've had too many incidents and you just never know, again, what the next negative headline is going to be. And again, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you got a lot more to worry about. You got to worry about Patrick Mahomes coming back from his knee injury. Again, you're a team that has the highest of high championship aspirations. I know the Chiefs aren't a team that probably has a ton of bread, so you're talking about a guy you can get for cheap. I'm sure you can get him for cheap. Right now, the Chiefs, I mentioned that cap sheet where I showed you the Cowboys were $30 million over the cap. You want to know how much money the Kansas City Chiefs are over the cap? $54 million. They are the team with the worst cap sheet right now. So again, maybe this is desperation, but he's like, listen, this is a guy that we maybe after we fix our cap sheet, we could actually afford because he's not going to make a ton of money. But the fact that Chris Jones is like clamoring to bring Tyreek Hill back to their locker room, it seems as the ladies say today, Delulu. I don't know, bro. Like he seems to be the last guy you need in your locker room based on what he's been dealing with. Again, he already had the fact that he got injured. I just feel like, again, I want to get in people's personal business, but like there were very disturbing allegations in his divorce filings from the woman he just divorced with. He just separated from. If I remember correctly, I believe there were abuse allegations and all different, just very disturbing things about this guy. And I feel like that went away, A, because like I guess the divorce proceedings ended, but then B, like he got hurt. So I think there was like, well, he got hurt, and whatever. We're just gonna move on. I'm like, whoa. There's a lot of things that were revealed by Tyreek Hill, even in recent years. We're not talking about his past stuff where he had all these other issues. I don't know why you would say, hey, we need to bring this guy in our locker room. This kind of energy we need, especially a guy that quit on his team too. Like. That doesn't get talked about enough. This guy pulled an Antonio Brown without taking off his pads and jersey. It was the same stadium, same team. He just didn't take off his pads and throw off the deuces. But he quit on the Dolphins at the end of the 2024 season, which is why he got his captainship revoked. So this is him definitely on his last leg. So if he ever wants to play in the NFL again, he's going to have to be on his best behavior. Let's say even if he is, are you convinced at his age that he's going to be able to be still a productive receiver at this point? For a guy that relies so much on speed, I just don't know. I find that to be something that's challenging. He's 31 right now. I don't know why I thought he was old. I said he was 33 yesterday. He's 31. He'll be 32 this upcoming season. I don't know. Do any of you guys want Tyreek Hill on your team in the chat? I don't. I don't. The Chiefs are going to make sense. And seeing some of the teams listed by CBS Sports, Buffalo Bills. To be honest, like again, that's what I think I mentioned the Bills yesterday. Like that's something that maybe I could see a little bit more He seems to be like he maybe be a slight upgrade over the guy that dropped the ball, Brandon Cooks, who drives me crazy. Raiders, that seems like a disaster. Chargers, again, a team that I mentioned as well. They also need help at receiver, and Herbert definitely could use a deep threat. But again, who is this guy at this point in his career is a big question. Somebody's going to take a shot on him. And I assume it will be a team that feels like they have a stable locker room in a winning situation. And I think Tyreek Hill, I assume, will want to go to a winning situation. But, man, that was a nasty knee injury. And he's 32 years old. He's reaching the end when it comes to his prime of his career. So, I don't know. I got another guy, Kenneth Walker, a guy I'd be more comfortable giving money to. Tyreek Hill, not at this point in time. But Chris Jones, he put it out there that he wants Tyreek Hill in KC. They won a championship. He was arguably the best receiver in the NFL there, so I would understand why they feel like they missed Tyreek Hill. I'm just not all that keen in bringing him back. Character plus injury, I don't really see the point at this point in time. Just again, especially when you have guys like him on your team. I don't think he's really improving the win total for the Chiefs next year, whether he's on the team or not. That's just kind of how I kind of view Tyreek Hill at this point in time. Again, this team, in the prime of his career, they decided we didn't want to deal with this guy anymore. And now they want to deal with him after dealing with the ACL injury at 30 and an advanced age where he's probably outside of his prime years at this point in time. I don't understand it. 40 days, 40 nights with your boy EJ Stewart, streaming live, multiple spots, streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart, streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ, streaming live on YouTube, New Generation Media. And like I say with every show, if I don't forget, a couple of things you can do to support the show, man, I really appreciate. Number one, if you could subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media, our YouTube channel, that would be a big help. We've had so many additional subscribers since we started this show. I haven't kept track of how many we've gained, but I want to say we've gained maybe like close to like 100, like at this point, just from me starting 40 Days and 40 Nights, which is super dope. And I really appreciate people that have supported the show over the course of these. Now we're more than a month into this thing and come down a little bit to the wire. The more help we can get, the better. If you can subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media, that is a huge help. If you can engage with the videos we put out, whether it's the short videos we put out on our YouTube Shorts, or obviously these videos with the comment section, giving us a like, all those things are greatly appreciated. Second thing you can always do, again, like I said earlier, is make sure you subscribe to the podcast channel. Every episode of New Generation Media content, particularly these episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights, gets posted to our podcast channel. Just search New Generation Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts, and you can get this show, 40 Days and 40 Nights, plus wherever other shows you get. And while you're at it, if you can give us a 5-star review, if you can write in a review, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're doing your podcasting from, you can give us a 5-star review. And if you can comment in the comment section, give us a review of the podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network. All those things are small things that help. And again, they are all greatly appreciated. We love you guys. And thank you so much for rocking with us for this long, as we're on day 27 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I want to shift gears here to a story that continues to concern me if you're a Giant fan. And it's something that I kind of talked about a little bit when they hired John Harbaugh. But now another kind of another notch on the concern board for me grows as we learned this week that John Harbaugh admitted that he actually was considering hiring Rex Ryan to be the Giants' defensive coordinator. Now, he didn't go as far as to say that there was a contract offered or why Rex Ryan wasn't eventually hired. Well, he kind of did go into that, but he said he talked to Rex Ryan, that there was talks about him potentially becoming the Giants' defensive coordinator. Eventually, of course, he did not get a job. It went to Jannard Wilson, and apparently it was Jesse Minter who put in a great word for Jannard Wilson. He had worked for Jesse Minter when Minter was in Baltimore, when they both were together. And we know this Harbaugh tree and how incestuous it is, where Jim Harbaugh will hire guys that John Harbaugh recently had or recently fired. It's a very weird situation. But these were quotes from ESPN where John Harbaugh said, "I talked to Rex about that job at length. Rex is a guy I love and I have a lot of respect for." So again, it definitely something in play apparently, but they decided to go with the route of deciding to go with Denard Wilson, who I'll admit, and I've said with Wilson, that he may end up being awesome. Like, we don't know. He got to coach the Tennessee Titans. Like, I told Carlos Ortiz that it's one of my favorite lines from doing this show so far is that, like, when I said that's like not coaching the NFL, and I had Carlos, he was drinking water. He almost spit out his water when I said that. But it is true. Like, I just think that if you're coaching the Titans, it's really hard to really judge how you are as a defensive coach. That team was out of game so early, and they were so hapless. Again, there were times where I think they were pesky the last few years, but I don't know what to make of saying that. Oh, you coached Tennessee Titans defense. I can't say for good or bad what that means at this point in time. Now, here was the article that was written. This was an Ian O'Connor, shot at Ian O'Connor. That Harbaugh ran a more wide open derby on the defensive side of the ball. He acted on a suggestion he even acted on a suggestion he first made on WFAN radio by speaking with his former Baltimore assistant ESPN Rex Ryan about the coordinator position. He said, "I talked to Rex about that job at length. Rex is a guy I love and I have respect for." But Harbaugh decided on another Ravens assistant of his, Denard Wilson, after receiving a strong recommendation from his successor in Baltimore, Jesse Minter. So, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. That's why I keep pausing. It keeps coming and going, so apologies if I end up having to sneeze. But, so, I feel like that's a situation where cooler heads prevailed, where I'm glad he called Jesse Minter, who I think most people respect as one of the better defensive minds currently in not just obviously the NFL, even in college football. So I think this ended up being a smart hire here to go with go with Denard Wilson over Rex Ryan. But man, like, let's look at this back now. I said, like, I like the Harbaugh hire, but I really wanted to see what the coordinator hires were going to be, especially once we learned that you weren't going to be able to bring back Todd Monken, because he gave Zachary Orr the defense in Baltimore, and that turned out to be a terrible mistake. Now, maybe we will learn with Jesse Minter there now that that defense is broken. Like, maybe Jesse Minter will keep a lot of the same defensive guys and they still won't be all that effective. We'll see. We won't know. But my hunch is that Zachary Orr was not ready for that job. It may have been a little above his head in terms of being able to try to put together a Super Bowl caliber defense, which is what the Ravens were looking for. They were a Super Bowl contender these last 2 years. So he hired Orr, and that ended up being a mistake. And it made me question, like, Harbaugh, as good a CEO, head coach as he is really only going to be as strong as his coordinators, right? Like, he knocked it out of the park with Todd Monken at the Greg Roman show that the game had passed him by. And then when he needed to get a new DC, he wasn't able to find the guy. He lost Mike McDonald, and he put in Zach Orr, and that was a mistake. And Mike McDonald has shown that he was a special coach, not just even a good coach. My thing is, I want to see him find the next Mike McDonald. And maybe he did with Denard Wilson. The thought that he went back to Rex Ryan, a guy who's been on television for now a long time. It's been a long time since Rex Ryan has coached in the NFL, because he went basically straight from the Bills job straight to his Sunday NFL Countdown, essentially. So this is not a guy that's been, I've been only out of the game for just a year or two. He's been out of the game for at least, 6 years as head coach? When was the last time Rex Ryan coached the Bills? Now I'm curious. I'm doing a lot of searching today. So sometimes how the show goes. Oh my God, 2016? That was the last time he coached in the NFL? That sounds insane. Yeah, that's concerning to me. Like, the fact that we don't know how close they got at this point, but I think he really considered hiring Rex Ryan to coach defense in 2016. In 2026, when he had not been a coach doing anything for 10 years. That would have been really concerning. Like, it's like these Jet fans keep saying that they should bring Rex Ryan back. I'm like, he has not coached in the NFL for 10 years, and he was terrible in Buffalo. Absolutely awful. They got rid of him in 2 years. So why? So the Jet fans, I understand why they want Rex Ryan. He's the only guy that brought any success to them in the last 15 years. So he's someone that makes sense if you think about who's the guy. Last guy we had sex with was Rex Ryan. Why not we just success? I said not sex. Last guy we had success with is Rex Ryan. Why not just bring Rex Ryan back? I'm like, it's just not that simple. The game, there's so much to learn. There's so much that is advanced in football, even in 3 years, let alone 10. So Rex Ryan as defensive coordinator, man, that would have been, yes. So we'll see. He hired Wilson, so Wilson is the guy. So let's hope Wilson is really good, and maybe Wilson will be really good. Maybe he ended up hiring the right guy, not the wrong guy. But just the fact that his mind went here to a place that originated, I love my station, WFAN, but a place that originated on WFAN, he said maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we should look into that. I'm starting to get a little worried. I don't want to go crazy just yet. I'm still pretty high on the Giants in that direction. And by the way, one other thing I mentioned as well, or I didn't mention, but it seems like the more and more we're learning about this Joe Schoen situation is that he is essentially a patsy. Like, he's not. I know he's kept his job as general manager, but they brought in Don Aponte to come in, and it seems like now with Aponte coming in, and she's going to be the person that's kind of going to be reporting to. She's going to be reporting a lot to John Harbaugh. She's not going to be reporting to Joe Schoen at all. So to me, it's like, who is really running the organization? If you bring in somebody to your front office, Dawn is the senior vice president of football operations and strategy, and if that person doesn't report to the general manager, then what the hell is the job of the general manager? We kept talking about, it's going to be this great collaboration. They're going to work together, and it's going to be a great tandem. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think that, what this is going to remind me of with Joe Schoen? And I like this guy. It doesn't seem to be going great where he currently is, but I think that he still deserves a lot of credit for the Knicks' success. It feels a little bit like Scott Perry with the Knicks, where Scott Perry was the, I put in quotation marks, general manager of the Knicks. And it seemed like he was in, it seemed like whenever, you saw those pictures of the Knicks brass sitting next to each, sitting together, like, he was always there. It was like Leon, Wes, and usually Scott Perry. And then Gerson Rosas kind of started to enter that then it became kind of a foursome, but then you started to realize, Gerson might have more to say than we think. And then we learned that Gerson was the guy that was on the phone, apparently, during much of the Donovan Mitchell conversations. So it was kind of clear, Scott Perry, he's a voice in the front office, but like whatever you think of as a traditional general manager, it doesn't seem like he's doing that anymore. Like, he was doing that under Steve Mills. He wasn't doing that, it seemed like, under Leon Rose, even though technically he was the second, and by just the hierarchy, he should have been the second in command when it came to basketball operations. This feels a little bit like that with the Knicks, where I think Shane is the general manager, but the real football operations guy is probably Harbaugh, to be honest. And then Dawn Aponte is probably like essentially, the in this case, the Gerson Rosas. Like, she's coming in and she's like maybe the person that's doing like the real grunt work of like the job. And then Shane, the word is that Shane maybe they're just to kind of like do scouting reports. I wonder how long he even stays. Like, I wonder if this is like kind of a 1-year deal where he does this for a year and then he hopes that he could kind of do what Steve Mills did. Where Steve Mills used the success of the Knicks and what they were able to accomplish to get another job as general manager somewhere else where he actually could run the team. Now, he's running the Sacramento Kings right now. That is not going great. I hope the best for Steve Mills. Steve Mills. Oh, geez. Scott Perry. I hope the best for Scott Perry. Scott Perry seems like a really upstanding guy in this industry, and people seem to love him in the NBA. But the early start and the early return on the King situation hasn't been the greatest, and I root for him. But that owner scares me. So I don't know how much time Scott Perry's going to have to really fix that thing. It wasn't that great when he got there, but it definitely has turned south pretty much as soon as he got there. Some of the moves that they made have not worked out. I would be curious to see how long Joe Schoen remains with the Giants at this point. I don't know if this is something that you're going to see him there for. Scott Perry stuck around with the Knicks for a while. He was there for about, I think, another 2 or 3 years after Leon Rose was hired before. Well, yeah, this was his first full year with the Kings, I believe. What was it last year? I don't remember. Either this year or last year. But either way, like, he was there for a little while. I don't know if Joe Schoen's going to even be there for that long, because it does feel like he's being kneecapped. The fact that you have a senior vice president of football operations that doesn't report to the general manager. They report to the head coach, it's a weird dynamic. It's a weird dynamic, and I'll be honest, I think it's when we talked about. I know they did their best because they're smart. Like they're Harbaugh. These are professionals. Like these are professionals. They know how to talk to the media. They know how to spin things, and I don't think it was an accident that people kept putting out there, hey, this dynamic that's being proposed by Harbaugh as they try to get to the finish line of a contract is very different than what the Giants are accustomed to. Once he gets to the press conference, he charms you, he smiles, they take a little picture at a little Greek restaurant, and they're like, oh, no, it's all good. Well, you guys are just tripping over nothing. This is no big deal. I don't think it was an accident that people who were following the Giants situation kept repeating that this is a very unique. They didn't say bad. They didn't have a judgment on it. That it was a unique kind of arrangement that the Giants weren't accustomed to. The fact that you hire, again, a senior vice president of football operations and they don't report to the general manager or to anyone in the front office, they report to the head coach is odd. It's just there's no way to describe it other than that. I don't know. I mean, let's chat. You feel differently. I look at it and I'm like, I think that this means that the general manager of the Giants probably will not be there much longer. And right now, he's only in that role as a nominal role. This is not someone that's really has real say with the Giant organization at this point in time, which might be a good thing. I don't say all this to say, that like this is a bad thing or that the Giants are in bad shape because Joe Schoen ain't calling the shots. Joe Schoen calling the shots has not gotten the Giants really anywhere at this point. So if I'm a Giant fan, I'm all for anybody taking responsibilities from him. You know, the question will be, it felt like in Baltimore, whether it was first Ozzie Newsome and then it was, especially with Eric DeCosta, it felt like at best, it felt like Harbaugh was equal to the general manager. Ozzie maybe, when he first became head coach, Ozzie maybe had more say initially, but then as roles evolve, Harbaugh comes more into his own as one of the better football coaches in the NFL, and then Eric DeCosta comes in as a kind of a new general manager, and then roles evolve, but I don't, maybe I could be wrong, people who follow Baltimore maybe know more about the situation than I do. I kind of saw those guys as like equals. Harbaugh definitely had a ton of say in football personnel, but I felt like DeCosta was definitely not. He was not Joe Schoen in a situation where there are people in the front office that report to Harbaugh, not him. So that's the only pause. This is now going to be new territory for Harbaugh, where he is going to be doing the Bill Parcells, where he's going to be getting the ingredients and cooking the meal. And we've never seen him in that role before. It's just something to follow. And apparently, as part of this role, he almost hired Rex Ryan. I think that's a little concerning to me. I'll be honest. Sometimes we underestimate how important it is to be part of a functioning, strong organization, even for strong, powerful head coaches. And sometimes let me just take over and do everything thing. Sometimes it works. In Denver, it's kind of worked. I mean, I've said it a bunch of times. Sean Payton, in terms of his public actions, I do not know him personally, but his public actions, he's come across as a jerk many times. People are in the NFL, like in terms of national media, seem to like him. So maybe he's great with them. I don't know. But in terms of his public actions, whether it was what he did with Nate Hackett, what he did with this year with his own offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, what he did with Bo Nix and his ankle this year, Russell Wilson, the list goes on and on. Public actions. He's come across as a jerk. And now it seems like he also kind of may be kneecapping George Payton in Denver, but they've won a ton of games since he got there. I can't sit here and go crazy about Sean Payton. He gets the results, right? So that's one where you can say, listen, that's worked out. And I can't even say that that's a stable organization. That was new ownership. We had no idea what the Broncos were going to be under this new ownership situation. But when you think about what Baltimore has been and how stable it's been, and then you go to the Giants, and we know what their history is, but when it comes to stability in ownership and stability in terms of sustained winning, it's been rough, very rough. That part of it is something that to look at if you're going to go somewhere new and wield this amount of power. Shout out to my guy Rob. He's very active in the chat today. Coward owners who won't do the right thing for their organization fire their executives. Talking about Joe Shane. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know why he's here. John Mara, I think he's a loyal guy. I think at his heart, I don't know him well, but he seems to be a guy that wants to do well, right? I think he does. Like, I think about how he approaches tanking. I think how he approaches certain things. He seems to try to want to do the right thing most of the time while understanding it's a business, how he wanted to do right by Saquon Barkley. Like, I think that in not maybe doing the right thing for the organization, which is to not have Joe Shane walking around like a patsy who will simply just take all the blame when this thing doesn't go well, if it doesn't go well, even though he's not calling really any shots anymore. He looks at it as, well, I am giving Joe Shane an opportunity to keep his job. He gets to keep his job. He still gets to keep his title. I assume he's not taking a pay cut. And if things go well here, again, just like Scott Perry with the Knicks, he can parlay this into a general manager or vice president job somewhere else, and then I would be helping him out. But, Rob used the words cowardly. I don't know if I call him a coward, but I do think it's that classic half measures thing, right? Like, I love that quote from Mike in Breaking Bad, like, no half measures. And this is like the ultimate half measure. So you could fire him. And everything the Marits have done in the last few years has been half measures. I go back to, I made it very clear at the end of last season. I said there are two roads to how the Giants need to approach this offseason. They either need to tell the fans, the media, we're giving both Joe Shane and Brian Daboll either a 1 or 2 year extension to let them know that they had the entire season this year to figure it out and to try to get this roster right, and that they will not be fired in this one season, because we have a lot of work to do in order to get to the playoffs, and we're not there yet at all. We're not even close, but we want to see improvement. And the only way for them to do that without making panic decisions or panic moves is to allow them to coach with some kind of freedom and GM with some kind of freedom. I'm not going to give a 5-year extension, but just a short one. Or you fire them both. That was the clear distinction of what they had to do coming into this year. There was no other way to approach it. And somehow they were like, let's do the in-between, where we don't extend either guy, we don't fire either guy, and we say there's a playoff mandate. You're like, what? So now these guys are coming into a year where they know if they don't get it done, they're entering a lame duck year and they're going to be fired. So then you got, what do you have? Brian Daboll calling 1,000,000 runs for Jackson Dart, running into blue tents to make sure Jackson Dart can run back out there, not caring whether or not he has a concussion. Like, you see the desperation with how they managed the team, and I think it hurt the team. That was all on ownership. That could have been avoided. It could have been fired, or you could have given them an extension and say, hey, listen, we're going to let them figure this out. We're not that good. But that takes the opposite of cowardliness. Well, I'm not going to say John Mara's cowardly. It does take courage and conviction to be like, we're going to stand strong in feeling something about our direction, whether we are saying this is unacceptable and therefore these guys need to be fired, which I would have been totally fine with. They did enough to be fired. There was no question about that. So to be clear, my thing was, I wasn't like necessarily super advocating for either one. I'm just saying this was the path they had to go. They did the half thing. And this to me is another example of them doing the half thing, where it's like, hey, let's just decide to keep him around because I like him. I like his family. He's a good guy. All the other different things that come with being an owner and understanding these folks and that your employees. But he's not going to have any responsibility or any job or any real say in this. But what comes with, again, still being the general manager is he will still take heat. Like, I can guarantee you, I mean, again, I now that I work at the Fan and I take these callers, like, I'm telling you, like, there will be calls on the Fan. I can tell them up and down, listen, John Harbaugh does a lot more personnel than probably you are thinking, and you can't keep blaming Joe Shane. They're still going to yell about Joe Shane and want him fired. That's just how this goes. I guess the last thing I'll say on this, I am still curious about whether or not the initial plan that we heard about is still the plan, but it's just not being announced because people said how stupid it was. Remember when it was announced that Joe Shane was quote unquote coming back, and everybody was like, first of all, what? How is this possible? Like, I think I was wondering if this was, did I do this on 48 48? I don't remember. No, I think I did. It was one of the first episodes, and everyone's like, what? How is this still possible? And then we heard, not only is he coming back, he may only come back before the draft. No, yeah, I was doing fan. It wasn't this one yet. It's because this was like December. It was like, not only is he coming back, but it also may not be that long he's back. Like, he may only do the draft, and then he may leave, and you're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me you're going to have a general manager who you're not committed to. You're going to let him, again, this is before we knew anything was going to happen, but you're going to let him hire a coach. You're going to let him run your draft, and you're going to let him select players, and then you're going to fire him? You're going to pull the Mike McCagnon, essentially, that just did? I think, like, are you seriously going to do that? And then, like, that kind of went away. We didn't hear as much about that anymore because it sounded completely insane. I wonder if that is still the plan. That, now, he didn't hire the coach, obviously, and we now know, again, there are other people involved that are directly responding, going to Harbaugh. I wonder if they said, okay, that plan sounded stupid out loud, so let's stop saying it out loud. Let's just quietly do what this plan we want to do is, which is keep Joe Shane around to let him do this draft work. And then once he's done with the draft work, then I'm going to take time with my family. It's been a long, 4 years, and I want to let John, take care of business or whatever. Just come up with whatever excuse to then leave. I personally wonder if that is actually what's going on. And that would still be stupid, by the way. The idea that a guy who you don't trust to run your team moving forward is actually going to be in charge of scouting and doing all this stuff, I think that is ridiculous. But they knew it sounded ridiculous because people hated it and people yelled at them about it, so now they won't say it anymore. But appointing a senior vice president of football operations that doesn't actually report to the general manager, I don't really get it. Doesn't make sense to me. 40 days, 40 nights. I told you guys we would do it, so I want to do it here. So get ready for this because I realize I got a bunch of things that are highlighted that shouldn't be highlighted. Why is this thing locked? We'll do it in a second as soon as I get this done. All right, there you go. So I mentioned we're going to do it here. Baseball season getting underway soon. Spring training, all of the teams have at least pitchers and catchers ready. And most of the teams may have a lot of the guys are now showing up, and a lot of guys are already there. Spring training is in full swing. 2026 baseball season is coming at you here. So my thought here is let's have some fun. I had fun doing the top 10 quarterbacks list and going back and forth with you guys about my list. I was like, let's do some more lists. I know it's sometimes people feel like it's a cheap ploy in sports content or sports media or sports writing, but it's fun. It's fun. And this is not necessarily a list ranking people. It's more of just like a grouping. I want to give you guys, as we enter the baseball season, my 5 must-watch players. So let me just be clear about this. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm going to give you my 5 watch players. Here's a guy to watch, Juan Soto. It's like, okay, yeah, we know Juan Soto's really, really good. My hope is to get guys that have kind of just burst onto the scene or are on the come up, or guys that are expected to have a big season, even if they may have not quite done it just quite yet. Or maybe they come off of one really big season, and I'm expecting them to continue that, and maybe they become more of a household name this year. So that's the thought process behind this list. And we're going to play some very familiar music, usually related to football. But actually, we're going to do it for Major League Baseball here, as I give you my 5 must-watch players for this upcoming season. Number 5, or not number 5, just one guy. Roman Anthony of the Boston Red Sox. This is a guy you've heard so much about, hitting 500-foot home runs, playing in AAA. He got his feet wet in Major League Baseball last year, and I thought he handled himself really well after a little bit of a slow start. Now that you don't have Bregman there, and now the Red Sox kind of in a little bit of a limbo situation where I think they still want to compete, but like, can they still compete in what is a very competitive American League East? I expect Roman Anthony to really start to become the staple of that team and the face of that team in a big way this year. He was the #1 prospect coming out of baseball last year. I think he pretty much met expectations last year. I expect another big year for Roman Anthony, so I really am excited to watch Roman Anthony play for the Red Sox this year. Next guy, Nick Kurtz. This guy is one of my favorite players in baseball. It annoys me that he plays for the Athletics, simply because I don't know if anybody can actually root for the Athletics. Maybe, I guess, if you're in Las Vegas, sorry, Bob Custer, in Nevada. Maybe if you're in Las Vegas and this team that's coming to you, root for the Athletics. But I think just given how John Fisher has been a ghoul with how he's run the team and what he did to the people of Oakland and the city of Oakland. I'm not saying that the politicians didn't fail that situation too. It's a failure on everybody's part, but John Fisher particularly being one of these, again, like I always say, broke boy owners who my thing is, if you can't afford a stadium or you can't afford to field a good team, then you should just get out of the sport. So I hate the team. I love this kid though. He burst onto the scene. He's a natural power hitter. He had a 4 home run game last year against the Astros. I think when we're talking about some of the guys in that home run chase for this year, I'm not saying Nick Kurtz is going to hit 60 home runs like Dumper or like Aaron Judge has done recently, but I think you're going to see him near the top of the list. And I think the A's now, again, as much as you don't want to root for them, they got a lot of good young position players. They are on the come up. Nick Kurtz is in the middle of that. I think he establishes himself as one of the best overall players in the game this year, especially when it comes to power. Nick Kurtz, a guy to watch for the Athletics this season. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Bubba Chandler of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Oh, sorry. That's why I was like, why is that so long? Because I have a typo there. Let me fix that real quick. But Bubba Chandler of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, you probably heard of Paul Skeens. And yeah, newsflash, he's pretty good. But I don't know if you've heard as much about Bubba Chandler. He is their top pitching prospect. He got his feet wet in the major leagues last year. Nobody's Paul Skeens. But if the Pirates are potentially putting together a rotation that maybe you look at for as long as Skeens is there and say, hey, this is probably one of the better rotations in the game, it's going to be because the guy Chandler really developed into a true ace, and he has true ace stuff. This is a guy who consistently throws 100 miles an hour as a starting pitcher. Nasty change, nasty slider, all breaking at 90 miles an hour. He has electric stuff. Now, location was at times on the fritz as a first-year player last year, but a full off-season, more Major League Baseball experience. Pirates are still going to be a bad team, but they got some young players. That's the goal. That's why they tank. That's a whole part of why they do this whole thing. They are going to be pesky, and Bubba Chandler is someone that, we'll talk about Skeens. I think he's someone they're going to say, ooh, they got 2 of these guys? Yeah, they have 2 legit flamethrowers in their rotation. So Chandler is a guy I think you'll get there for Skeens. If the Pirates end up being kind of interesting and maybe more competitive than you think, you'll stay for Bubba Chandler, who I think will also be a big-time piece for them this upcoming season. Next on the list, you know I had to go trade your Savage from Toronto, right? You had to. You want to talk about coming up big, what he did in the World Series to be that young, to dominate a Dodgers lineup that was one of the best in baseball, has been one of the best in recent memory. Now you get to see if he can live up to that for a full season. I love this. I love when you see the young starters that burst onto the scene during the playoffs or during the World Series, and you say, okay, can they kind of replicate that success in the playoffs and in the regular season moving forward, right? Can they? Is it a flash in the pan, or is it something that's going to be something to follow? Again, you Savage, another guy with top-notch stuff. And what I like about this is I love seeing young players playing for teams that are like legit title contenders, because how they fit in with a team that, right, quite frankly, won't have like the most patience for them. They're a team that, well, again, the Blue Jays expect to try to win the AL East again. They want to get back to the World Series and avenge that loss to the Dodgers. They almost won because of the heroics of Trey Savage, and he became a household name during the World Series last year. People shouldn't forget about Trey Savage, because now he's going to have his opportunity for a full season with the Blue Jays this upcoming year. Finally, Zach Neto of the LA Angels. I feel like Zach, one of the best kept secrets in Major League Baseball. He's super young, and he's been really good at shortstop pretty much since he got to the majors. He's been down for 3 years, But I don't know if everyone exactly knows how dynamic he is. He hits for power. He has speed. He has it all. And again, the Angels may not be the team to watch per se, but I have enjoyed watching Zach Neto whenever I have to watch him playing against the Yankees or playing against the Mets. That's the time I'm watching the Angels. I'm like, ooh, this shortstop can play. He can really go. And I wonder if this season is the season that Zach Neto, in terms of maybe not household name when it comes to, team accolades, I wonder if his numbers take a step up as he continues to become more comfortable with Major League Baseball pitching, and he continues to be comfortable with the player he is in the game and where he stacks among the best shortstops in baseball. I think we're going to be talking about him this year and saying one of the best shortstops, one of the best 3 or 4 shortstops in the game. They're in Anaheim and nobody's talking about him, but this guy is actually raking. I love Zach Neto. I think he's an exciting player. He is a guy to watch for this season. So that's my list of my 5 guys to watch in Major League Baseball this year. So I got Roman Anthony. Oops, sorry, got that playing again. My bad. I got Roman Anthony. I got Bubba Chandler. I got Trey Savage. I got Zach Neto. And I got Nick Kurtz. I'd love to know who are guys that you are looking forward to seeing this upcoming season for the Major League Baseball year. But those guys I'll be following, man. I tell you what, I know I'm ready for baseball because I've just been playing MLB The Show nonstop. And there's not the new game, because the new game comes out in a month. But I've been trying to get to the Major League level on my road to the show, because I always feel like I get to the road to the show way late. Like when the actual baseball season starts, I want to play with the actual teams as they are constituted. So I end up playing more either franchise games or more just quick games with the teams that are out here, right, with the current rosters. And it's usually after the season is over when I decide, I want to do road to the show. I want to play the minor leagues and work my way up. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just on the wrong team. Maybe I need to demand a trade. I feel like it's taking me, I'm only in my second year in the minors, but it feels like it's taking me forever to get called up to the majors. Like my first year, I understood. I kind of hit 240, 250 playing most. I said, well, double A. When I got a triple A, I was hitting 250. I kind of understood, okay, 250, even with some power, they might want to keep me down. So I understood staying in the minors. But now I'm hitting 320. I'm one of the best power hitters in minor league baseball. I'm playing shortstop. What the hell is going on? What do I have to do to get called up at this point in time? I don't know if it's because I'm playing for the Braves and Ha-Sung Kim is ahead of me, and that's why I can't get called up because I'm a shortstop. But I feel like when I haven't done a full road to the show where I've been disinvested in probably since the pandemic. The pandemic, I think, was the last one I really played. I may have played 3 seasons. I feel like I got called up in I don't know if it was the first year, but I think it was early in the second year. I'm mid-season in the second year, and I'm raking, and I still haven't been called up. And I'm like, what's going on? I don't want. I like playing against the the Toledo whatevers, and there's one weird team that has a weird name that's a name, the name of the city is also the name of the team. I forgot which one it is. There was some weird minor league team. You have to learn all these minor league teams when you're playing the show, the road to the show, and I wouldn't get called up, man. Still haven't been called up. It's starting to get annoying. So, but I can't wait for baseball season. The weather's starting to get warm. For those who don't live in New York City, this has been the worst winter I can really remember. There's been worse, I assume, since I've been a kid. But this one's been awful. Cold, snow. It snowed once a lot, and because it was so cold, where we were not breaking 30 degrees, what felt like for a month, and we were sitting in the teens for a while, weeks, where it was teens, and many days where wind chill was well below 0. I know some of you folks that may live in Canada watching the show. Some people living in Wisconsin and Buffalo and some of those northern parts of the country were okay, minus whatever. That's every year for us. That's not every year for New York. In fact, in New York City, because of global warming and climate change, winters have been quite comfortable here, where typically 40s. Maybe you'll have one bad week or one bad weekend where you're in the 20s, but typically you're in the high 30s, low 40s. If you have a winter coat, you're fine. That has not been the case this year. You needed winter coat, you needed long johns, you needed sweaters on sweaters, you needed hats and gloves, you needed scarves. This was awful. And finally, we're at a week where we're in the 40s consistently. So I think these awful snow mountains we've had where it snowed once and then it just stayed there for like whatever that bad snowstorm we had that everyone said was going to be so bad. And it was not nothing. It was not insignificant. It was a decent amount of snow. It's just been here. And what happens here, what sucks, is we have a city of nasty people who don't pick up after their dogs. And the dogs love these disgusting, dirty snow mountains, particularly my dog, Lita. Now, I pick up after my dog every single time. I've never not picked up after Lita. But we live in the city of some, what's the word? Savages. And there are folks who will walk their dog, let their dog poop wherever, and just keep moving. I don't judge people. I say this a ton. I'm someone who I really feel like, you don't judge me, I don't judge you. I may have feelings about what my values are and who I am as a person and what I think is right. But I'm not going to be in the business of saying, oh, you do this that way, well, you're wrong or you're a bad person. I don't know you. But I will say, I believe if you do not pick up after your dog, there's an 85% chance you are a bad person. Maybe you could be good. I'm not saying that it's impossible. But I think one of the worst public showings you could have as a person in terms of, again, someone making a judgment of you is for you to walk around your own neighborhood. Think about this. I'm not talking about people, like, these people obviously are not just driving around New York City and say, I'm going to come into this random neighborhood and just let my dog poop everywhere. You're walking around where you habitate. Your neighborhood, your community. And you're letting dogs, your dog, that you raise, that you train, that lives with you, crap on the sidewalk, in parks, anywhere, just literally anywhere. If you walk around New York City, it has never been this bad. Like, I remember as a kid, like, yeah, well, there are times where it's like, oh, don't run in that grass, some dogs pooped in there. Like, yeah, my mom would always have to, and then she'd get furious whenever I would come back. Oh, I stopped the dog poop because I was playing in the grass. And she's like, why are you doing it? And now I got to clean your sneakers. And it was always a mess. But typically, again, it was like, oh, I ran in the grass. Like, I ran someplace I probably shouldn't have been in. Or I was, not on the sidewalk. The amount of poop that is just on sidewalks of main streets. Not like, oh, like this is some like back street where nobody really walks and whatever. And I understand some folks don't got bread. But also, this is a city where, like, it's basically my neighborhood. Like, there are, like, actual literal, like, what's the word? Like poop bag stands. Where if you're walking around certain buildings, because there's so many co-ops in where I live, there are places where they just have bags for you to pick up after your dog. And people just refuse. They just refuse. And yeah, it has gotten so bad that I've had to walk around at times with a flashlight. To walk around just to make sure at night, to make sure that I'm not, like, when it's dark, you may not be able to see everything and you don't want to step in something. It's ridiculous. And it didn't used to be like this. I've lived in the city 34 years old, might be 35 in a couple months. That's scary to say. But I've lived in this city for like more than 30 years of my life. And I've never seen this much dog poop in my life. It is just, it's inexcusable. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things that, like, I feel like I'm not someone who judges you on, but if you do this in public, I will judge you. I will judge you if you do not pick up after your dog. I think you're probably a scumbag. I'm sorry. You're going to poop. You're going to allow someone to poop in your community, to actually literally deface your community, and you're letting your own dog do that, and you're just going to walk on by like this is just like a normal part of your day. I think you're scummy. There's very few things that people can do in terms of, like, just everyday life. If you do something that's like you attack somebody or something, obviously you're a scumbag. But I'm talking about, like, just things that people just do regularly, because it has to be the same folks. It can't be just everybody is doing it. I think it's the same people, because if you walk your dog 3 times a day or 4 times a day, it's going to happen once a day. You walk your dog enough, it's going to happen. But what ends up happening is because we've had these snow mountains, and the dogs love these snow mountains, not only do we have these snow mountains that have dirt and grime from the street and from just the dirt of being in New York City, being in a concrete jungle, you have these snow mountains that have poop all over them. So they're poop mountains. It is disgusting. Completely disgusting. And I saw one of the city councilmen, I forgot his name, but he posted just a full thing, a full page, like Instagram post, like on his story. So it encompassed the entire story, and it just was in huge capital letters. Pick up your effing dog, bleep. And I almost shared it, but I was like, I don't know, this might be a little too vulgar. But I understood the sentiment because it is frustrating because it's everywhere. Because at first I was like, because I remember when I first met Andrea, my fiance, I remember I would, visit her. And that's when the flashlight thing started. Because she lived on the Upper East Side at the time in Manhattan. And when I would go see her after work or I would spend a weekend there, I would walk over there and it was dog poop everywhere. I was like, oh my God, Andre, your neighborhood, like people don't pick up their dogs. Say, yeah, no, it's crazy here. I don't know what's going on. It was stunning to me because I'm just like, as someone who was living in Pennsylvania and was only commuting into the city to go to work. So the really only time I really was spending in New York City extendedly was to see her. And we may do something out in the streets or whatever in public, but we're going to a restaurant and coming back home. We're not obviously just going all over New York City, right? She didn't have a car. We're not driving. So most of my time being spent in the cities, either in Chelsea, where I worked at Spectrum News New York 1, or on the Upper East Side where she lived. And that was where I was like, yo, I'm walking home from work, because I would work late nights sometimes, or most of the time, especially on weekends, and I'm like, there's dog poop everywhere. Like, I have to walk around with a flashlight because it's not lit, the streets aren't lit enough for me to even see it, and I feel like I'm going to step in dog poop. Then we moved to a different neighborhood. We moved to Queens, and I think, okay, like, I didn't even think about this as being a thing anymore, because I didn't deal with this in my neighborhood in Pennsylvania. People pick up after their dogs. I don't know what to say. And then I moved to this neighborhood in Queens, and it's just as bad, if not worse. And there's more people in this neighborhood, so it's the volume is higher. And I'm like, yo, this is insane. There's more. Like, why don't people picking up after your dogs? Why? I don't get it. Rod the Ray in the chat. Rank top 5 actions that make you a scumbag. Number 1, don't pick up after your dog. Number 2, attacking someone. Number 3, grabbing cat by the ankles. That is an illusion, I believe, that Draymond Green and or Joel Embiid, because I said that Draymond Green plays basketball like a scumbag. And to be clear, again, similarly, like I said with people, like I can't speak to what Draymond Green is as a person. He seems like a great dad. He seems like a great husband, like from what I see. He probably is actually a pretty fun guy to hang out with. He seems like a guy who probably talks a ton and talks crap about a lot of people. I'll get to that in a second, by the way, talk crap about people in the NBA guys. But to be his friend is probably pretty fun. He probably runs hot. Like, he's probably the guy that's like, oh, like, don't joke around too much, though, because he may actually, like, take it too far. Which is why I think teammates probably like playing with him for the most part. But yeah, that I think to grab someone by the ankles, whether it was Cat or I'm thinking about Joel Embiid against Mitchell Robinson, like that to me on the basketball court, that is one of the scummiest things you can do. I'm sorry, like I've played basketball not at the highest level, but at a pretty high level, playing Catholic high school basketball in New York City, and I'm thinking about like things that will be automatic fight starters on any pickup court. Grabbing a guy by the ankles who is driving to the basket is almost certainly starting a fight. Almost certainly. Because it's a absolute no-no. Well, so what are some other things that someone can do that guarantees or almost guarantees that you're a scumbag? I don't know. There's not that many. Because again, maybe I'm the wrong person. I don't really judge folks. So trying to go off the top of my head, like what are some things that I see in public that I think, oh, if you do this, oh, you're a jerk. And you know what's funny? Like if I see someone who I think is like, I shouldn't admit this, but if I see someone who I think is not gonna pick up after their dog, I kind of like slow down and kind of like while I'm walking lead up and like kind of like look at them like, you're gonna pick that up, right? You're gonna pick that up, right? Because you gotta shame these people. Shame is only the thing we got. And what's crazy is these people, they're smart. Because they always do it when no one's around. I never see it. Like, I never see someone not pick up after the dog. Everybody that poops, I'll look and they pick it up. So I'm like, but what I think is happening is, that's why I'm also annoyed by these people. Because I think these are people who, if people are around, they do pick up after the dog. Which is why I don't think this is a money issue. I don't think it's, oh, I don't have any poop bags. Because that's one thing I do try to hold. I'm like, well, maybe someone just doesn't have poop bags and they got to buy them. And listen, we're an Amazon family. Jeff Bezos, we want to talk about scumbags. Jeff Bezos, I have no love for. But listen, his business is convenient. So we are still an Amazon family. So we just have our poop bags just come regularly. Like, so we never run out. But I know not everybody can do that. I know not everybody wants to do that. Some people don't want to support Amazon, and power to the people if you're doing that. Like, I appreciate you. But so it's like, that's the only thing that holds me back. Where like going, that's why I say 85%, because there could be some accentuating circumstances for why someone isn't picking them after their dog. But there's very few excuses in my neighborhood not to. I think I know one. If you're the kind of person that is like, if you're on a plane and you hear a baby crying, you actually make a big stink about it, you're probably also a scumbag. First of all, why are you coming on a plane without headphones? Like, and maybe you forgot them, but if you forgot them, that's on you. That you can't then go to the young mother and young father and then go and say, hey, like, you know, shut it up. Like, which is what we've seen in some of these videos on the planes. The way people act on planes is crazy. But we've seen folks. Remember that guy that like was basically having like a. It seemed like, I don't know what he was doing. He was having some kind of episode about how he was going to fight a baby because a baby was crying on a plane. I'm like, it's a baby. You get stuck with the baby behind you, kicking your chair or doing whatever. Like, I think you say, hey, can you just make sure the baby doesn't kick my chair or anything like that? That's one thing. But the people that actually want to get after a baby on a on a plane, which happens quite often, it's like, what the hell's wrong with you, bro? I don't know. To get on a plane without headphones is insane. I've heard the idea of the thing of the idea of what they call raw dogging on a plane. Raw dogging meaning you go on a plane, you just sit there, and you don't have any headphones, you don't watch television, you just watch the map go from wherever you're going to the end and see if you can do it. What people come up with, I have no idea. And I don't know if these people are trying to raw dog on the plane, and that's why they're like, yo, you're messing up my raw dog game. I'm trying to study this flight from Tampa to to Seattle, and the baby's getting into my head. I don't know if that's why we've had these issues with people wanting to actually go after babies on planes, but that's bad. That's a bad one too. That's starting to become worse, where people will actually be like, I have a beef with a baby on a plane. It's like, what? All right, come on, man. Come on, man. I think also if you cut lines, I think you're probably also a scumbag. Like, I think the chat and cut is one I don't love. Like, that's one that is not is Larry David infamous. One of the best Curb Your Enthusiasm segments I feel like ever. I know it's later season. Some people are like, oh, later season of any show, you look like a casual. I don't care. The chat and cut scene where, you know, because so many people do it. You've probably done it. I have certainly done it. I think chat and cut, I don't know if you're a scumbag. I think just cutting in line, you're a scumbag. That is a scumbag move. Chat and cut, I think, is a little more, there's a little more gray area to that. And what always makes it funny is a chat and cut for a buffet line, I think, is not that big a deal. Which is what Larry was complaining about in that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. A chat and cut on a line for food, something, fine. But there are people who will just cut you in line for like important things, and will chat and cut you. Those things, that scumbag. Sorry, this is a long line. There's mad people back there. You can't just be chatting and cutting everywhere you go. People are apparently very Are you guys not aware of the term raw dogging on the plane? Come on, EJ Family Show. That's not what raw dogging means. Yes, it does. Look it up. This is the term raw dogging. I know there's Mile High Club. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about raw dogging on a plane, which raw dogging on a plane is when you sit on the plane, no music, no headphones, you can't even watch television. You have to sit in your chair and the only entertainment you could have is the map, that little globe simulation showing where you are and where you're headed. That is the only way you can have any entertainment, and you have to do it for the entire flight. I will say this, I've never done that without music, but I oftentimes don't watch television. Like I actually like watching the map. I'm one of those lunatics. I will sit there, never have to watch TV. We talked about this on the MLB Pro show. They think I'm insane. I don't know. I can't watch, like, now if there's like a game on, like I watched like I remember I was coming back from what was I coming back from? Oh, it was my vacation to Mexico last year. When I was coming back from my vacation, I put on the NBA Game 7 Thunder versus Nuggets, which I thought was going to be a classic. Turned out to be a terrible game. But I watched that in my headphones. But typically, if I'm listening to music, I don't want to watch TV. Because now it's like a conflicting thing. Live games, live action is different. Because, like, okay, the music doesn't really matter as much. I'm just not listening to commentary, but I'll watch a sporting event. If I'm watching like a show or television, or like it throws me off. I'll try, and I'm like, this is weird. I don't know what's being said. I'm listening to music. I can't do it. And I prefer to listen to music than watch television on a plane. I love music. I'd rather listen to music and read than watch television. And then if it's a live game, I'll do that. But like I watched the NFC Championship game on a plane. That's, again, different. But I'm not doing the live, the live, the watching an actual TV show, like watching a movie, like watching Sonic the Hedgehog, and then listening to my music. That doesn't make sense. I usually have wireless headphones, so I don't have a wire to plug into the thing. I know they can give me headphones. I don't really want to wear the headphones on the airplane. Usually they're kind of lame. So I will. It's not raw dogging. I don't know what that means in terms of like how I do it. Because I have to have music. I can't do nothing. Bob Custer put something in the chat I'm not going to put up there because I'm not trying to get in trouble today. I will put up one more Rob DeRay comment saying, "You are 1 year younger than me. Raw dogging meant something different for our whole lives. Do not let the youth fool you." To be honest, I don't think this is a youth thing. I feel like, I don't remember who brought it up. It was from like a sports podcast they were talking about it. I don't think this was like even like an actual like regular podcast. I don't know why I would say it was Will Compton, but I don't know if I want to. I could be giving him credit for something that he has nothing to do with. But it feels like it was on one of those type of shows where they brought up the concept of raw dogging on a plane. That is what I know what raw dogging has meant beyond this definition. What I'm telling you is this new definition of raw dogging when it comes to planes is you sit there and you just watch the screen and that's all your entertainment. And that's all you do for the 3, 4, 5 hour flights. And there are people who actually like they do it as a test. Like they're like, yo, I'm gonna fly from New York to London and do raw dogging. I'm like, you are probably a psychopath. If you could accomplish that, you are a psychopath. So you're subjecting yourself to a cruel and unusual punishment that is only of your volition. Doesn't make sense to me. Let's get to some other. This has been like this show. I'll be honest. This show, there's not a lot going on in sports, so I knew this was going to be like an off the rails show, and I like it. Actually, I think in some ways this, in many ways, is in many ways the spirit of the show I left, which is Maggie and Perloff show.
You suck, bogus. EJ's a nerd.
Yes, I am a nerd. I gotta play more drops. I got so many drops here. What I miss, as much as I love hosting this and I love being a part of this, and I've said this a bunch. One of the things I miss and I regret is I'm not able to play. It's hard to, even if I remember that I have the drops, when I'm actually going and I'm hosting and I'm going 100 miles an hour, it's hard to remember all the drops I have and how they could apply.
Hello, police. Chris Paul trying to beat me up.
There's so many good ones, and I'm like, I should be playing a lot more of these.
Those hair follicles.
I'm glad I got the
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
I'm glad I got that in there last night with Dexter Henry, by the way. That was, you want to talk about, I would never do it because I love all my friends too much. But I would encourage somebody if they want to come out with, like, to rank, like, the interviews I've done this year for 40 Days and 40 Nights. My conversation with Dex is very high. Because I don't think Dex expected, like, all conversations like this one where it goes off the rails. I don't think he was anticipating so many takes beyond just, like, whatever the talk about, like, the specific things were. But that's how with every sports conversation I have, or really any conversation I have. This is why I do this probably, why I should be doing this probably. But, like, the whole conversation about, like, just, like, how we consume media and how I think we talked about the importance of moments. Because I think he is, I don't know where it stand, where like overall adults stand on All-Star games. I think more adults like them than people who hate them like to admit. That's my feeling on it. I could be totally wrong. I'm gonna adjust my mic because my mic looks a little weird on the camera. Just give me 1 second. There you go. That's much better. I think it's much better. Yep, that's a little better. But anyway, I feel like more adults like it than people who hate it want to realize. But I do think a lot of people just do not care or hate All-Star games. I do think that is true. And he's one of those folks that said he's someone who doesn't care about All-Star games at all. He's like, I was a kid, I liked them, but, like, I'm someone that, like, if the All-Star game is never important or never a thing again, it just would not be a big deal to me. And what I told him was I felt like I am a All-Star person. I love All-Star games. I love the Major League Baseball All-Star game. I love the NBA All-Star game. Pro Bowl is tough. And the NHL All-Star game is tough. Though the Four Nations was awesome. And one of the things I was telling him about was I really think that it's not so much about when it comes to the NBA about even just the All-Star game. It's about the moments that can be created. And what is my overall concern about us being willing to be like, well, the All-Star game doesn't matter, let's just move on, is how many more moments can you create in a environment where you're always competing for people's attention? I think, I always say I think we're living in the darkest timeline. I do believe in the multiverse. And I believe I don't know about darkest timeline, but I think we're in a dark one. One of the darker ones. There are better ones out there. There probably are worse ones considering we have nuclear powers all across the world. So I'm sure there are worse timelines in this, but I feel like we're in a pretty dark one. That's just my feel. I don't know if it's true or not. I am one of those folks that believes in the multiverse. I'm that kind of guy. I feel like we're in a dark timeline. And I think a lot of it can be blamed on our lack of attention span. I think we're a people in a society that we just, I always say, like, it's I saw this from a political commentator. It's not a political comment or take. It's just more of us, like, how we consume news, and everything is just like a dog seeing a squirrel, and we can't focus. So we see one thing, we just look this way, and there's another thing, we look this way. It's like, wait a minute, there's the other thing we just did. Like, we didn't solve that, or we didn't fix that. Nothing actually happened. Like, we just argued about it for 3 days and we moved on. And we can be distracted by, like, the smallest things, and it's for everything. And I think it does impact how we view sports. It's why I think it's so hard. Like, I had a caller. Shout out to that caller, man. That was dope. I know sometimes kid callers can be tricky when you call about a kid calling on a radio show. Is why we typically don't put them on. And I think this guy fooled my guy Connor Green. Shout out to Connor, because Connor I think would have put on a kid, but a dad called to put his son on to ask me a question about the All-Star game. He said, like, my dad says All-Star games used to be really cool. Am I ever going to see a good one, or are they always going to suck? And I said, that's a sad existence, because I'm realizing this young kid has probably never seen a good All-Star game. Like, the kid must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and if he's only been watching basketball for 3 years or 4 years, then he's never seen a good All-Star game. He's seen, like, the worst All-Star games. And I said, no. I said, the answer is probably no, though I had my solutions for why I fix it. I keep saying just put the NBA Finals on the line. I know people will go crazy. I'm like, well, how bad do you want to go to All-Star game? If you don't want to go to... My thing is, if you don't care, then there's nothing you can do. If you really care about it, that will definitely make the game interesting, because people will have no choice but to play with some kind of care for it, because you're going to care about who has home court advantage if you're a team that's competing for a title. So I've always made it very clear that it's that's the only way to fix it. But I brought that conversation back talking to Dex, because I was like, one of the things that like I just think is important is creating moments, and it's so much harder now than it ever was. Like I said, think about this World Series we just had. Like that was a game, that was a World Series, not in just Game 7, a World Series in its entirety. That this happened, I told him, in 1997. And this was the next season. We're going into the tree. We still be talking about that World Series. We still be talking about the biggest story in sports would still be how are these teams going to respond to coming out of that World Series? That would be all we talked about. But the moment happens, the game happens, it's incredible, and then we squirrel, moving to something else. It's like we don't stick with anything. So I think in the NBA, like it's so hard to make moments. If you're really going to be like, yo, we're just going to give up on creating any kind of moment except for the playoffs, how fleeting that's going to be when you think about the playoffs, when we think about those games, when we think about those game-winning shots, and we're just going to move on. Like, for example, I know it's a repeat, but think about how iconic Reggie Miller's choke game is. It's still iconic. We still talk about it. We essentially had the choke 2.0 with the Knicks and Pacers. I know it's weird because Halbert got hurt. He's not playing, so he's a little out of mind. But in theory, that should be an image that plays nonstop. Thank God it doesn't. I may need to be admitted into a mental institution if it did. That was one of the most insane comebacks in the history of the NBA. One of the most insane games in the history of the NBA. Just like the first one was with Reggie and the Knicks. And it's a moment and we just move on. It's just hard to... So if you say I'm going to stick to, well, only the playoffs matter, and therefore we should not really care about anything else, but the problem becomes you're not able to really create any real... You're not really able to be in the zeitgeist at all, except for 2 months in a year. And even in that time, the time to actually remain culturally relevant is smaller, because you're competing with everything. Because back then, my only chance to watch highlights of that would be if they showed it on a random documentary, or they showed it as a flashback on SportsCenter or whatever. Now I can go back to the 1994 Eastern Conference Finals and I can watch that on YouTube anytime I want. It's competing with everything now. So I just think that we're in a weird time in sports where it's hard to create moments, and if you're a sports league, I think you should be trying to create moments every chance you get, which is why I think the All-Star game is important. Like, people say All-Star game sucked. I'm like, well, Magic Johnson hitting all those threes was iconic, and it was important to the league. And Kobe versus Mike at the All-Star game was important to the league. And Michael's last All-Star game was important to the league. Like, there are moments that have happened in All-Star games. I'm not saying that every year there's a moment like that. It's, again, they're some ways few and far between. Allen Iverson and Stephon Marbury leading the East to the comeback in 2001 was important to the league. It's important to Allen Iverson's story, that MVP season. It's why it's part of the legend of Allen Iverson. Like, these are things that matter, and that's why I know I got some heat. I'm still getting some heat on social media about saying that I think the NBA would be better off when LeBron and Steph and KD leave. And I think what some people may are misunderstanding. I think I communicated it well, but maybe whatever. People listen what they want to listen to. Is I'm not saying they are to blame for everything, or that they even are the culprit for everything that is involved with what's been wrong with the league. But I do think at too many times they have represented what people have disliked, and it has been this idea that you can be gaslit into thinking that this is what's happening with the NBA is normal and everything is fine, and that these other small things don't matter. Like, you get told, like Rich Paul, he said a lot, which he has a podcast now, so I guess he's going to say a lot. But he's like, oh, if LeBron James would have won a slam dunk contest, y'all would have said it would have been rigged. Like, they just throw stuff out there and hope it sticks. And I'm like, first of all, people think Mike won the dunk contest in '88 and they don't think he should have won. Like, people thought that was rigged. Does anybody care? Or does anybody complain? Does anybody argue about, oh, Mike shouldn't actually won? No, it's Michael Jordan. He won a dunk contest in Chicago, and it was one of the most iconic. It's part of his legacy. Again, it's part of what makes Jordan special, is that he won the dunk contest, that he did jump from the free throw line in Chicago to beat Dominique in '88. That's part of it. People think Zach Levine should not have beat Aaron Gordon in the dunk contest. Does anybody really care? That's the whole part of it's an exhibition. Like, that part of it doesn't matter. The part is, again, the moments you create. And it's these guys who look at stuff and they're like, well, no, actually this stuff doesn't matter. And then they actually try to blame you for why it shouldn't continue or why things shouldn't go the way they're going. Like, the thing, LeBron not doing a dunk contest is utterly absurd. It's just absurd. It defies logic. But you got these people who want to gaslight you into, like, saying, oh, no, actually, you're the one that's crazy, not me. And unfortunately, they have too many sycophants who will support and push their crap. He said that. He said something else recently. There was two things. I forgot what the other thing was. But that was the one I was like, what? Really? Now we're going, that's what we're complaining about now? Now we're saying, oh, well, if he would have done contest and he would have won, you would have said it would have been rigged. No, LeBron probably would have done something really amazing. He would be like, wow, that was awesome. Yeah, you have people saying it was rigged. Again, Aaron Gordon lost 2 dunk contests. One we absolutely got robbed when Dwayne Wade cooked the vote for Derrick Jones Jr. I think it was Derrick Jones Jr. That was disgraceful. But it's an exhibition. Again, nobody cares. We just remember the dunks that he did. I think a lot of people don't remember that Doc didn't win the dunk contest against Larry Nance. That Larry Nance won. The one that they did when they first brought back dunk contest in the NBA. We just remember Doc jumping from the free throw line as an older guy for the Sixers. Nobody remembers he lost. That's not the point. But these people who either weren't there or try to rewrite history will tell you all of this nonsense and throw it against the wall. And because people don't have the remembrance, because again, our attention spans are so off, or they don't care to actually know the history, they'll say, oh yeah, no, that makes sense in a vacuum. That actually makes sense when you think about it. Like, for a dumb person, it makes sense. Or maybe dumb's harsh, but person who doesn't know better, it may make sense. But if you use common sense, or you know the history, or you were alive when this stuff happened, you realize a lot of this stuff doesn't actually make any sense. But I'm saying that just to say, because it's just a lot of heat. I said that the game will be better when LeBron, Steph, and KD are gone. And I said in the clip, they did a lot for the NBA. There's no denying that. I can talk about all the things they did for the NBA. But there's a lot of bad that I think that could potentially, not entirely, but potentially we can root out with those guys being gone. Like this trying to change the narratives of history to placate one player, and let's talk about LeBron, or like trying to, again, gaslight people into what the game used to be to make it seem like what's happening now is totally normal. Kevin Durant, and then again, forget about the buddy stuff that people can't stand. Like, all that stuff, we can maybe get that out of here if those guys are gone, because they represented an era that it was just different. And I think people are sick of it. Those guys are great players. When they retire, it's going to be a great celebration of those guys' careers and what they've done for the league. But I think the NBA will be better off when they do eventually leave. That's my little rant for today. My little EJ/Lisa Stewart rant for today. Real quickly, man. Are we really going to allow this to happen? Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. The fact that this is happening on the weekend of my birthday is crazy. They're going to fight in a boxing match. It's set for April 25th. This is an exhibition match. I'm almost at a loss of words. Here's why this frustrates me. The part of me was like, should I even talk about this? I want to talk about it only because, again, this goes, back to attention span. When are we as sports fans going to have some level of shame? We just want the lowest common denominator, the low-browest crap to entertain us for a fleeting 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is, for something we know is going to be a complete sham. And people are going to spend money to buy tickets. They're going to spend money on a pay-per-view probably. And they're going to support this thing. When it's like, why are we allowing these guys? Shout out to Mike and Floyd, I guess. But I just, what are we doing? Boxing used to actually be the king sport in America. It's crazy to think. But if you were the heavyweight champion in the world, you were the most famous person you were the most famous person in the United States. least athlete. And this is what we're subjecting ourselves to now. Watching 59-year-old Mike Tyson, after the performance he just had with Jake Paul, where he just walked around the ring for 10 rounds, essentially, in a fight that I still don't know if it was fixed or whether Mike was just so old he couldn't actually do the thing we thought he could do to Jake Paul, because then he faced somebody his age and he got knocked the F out. And Floyd Mayweather, who his fights are always boring anyway, he's a great talker, he's a great promo, but in terms of actual his boxing, because he's a defensive fighter, what is this? Not to speak about the way the dangers that come, the potential danger. There are no dangers because I don't think anybody's gonna get hurt, because these guys just want to get in and make this money and then go home. But also the dangers, in theory, of a 59-year-old man getting into a boxing ring against a 48-year-old man. Like, this is shameful. And the fact that, Floyd Mayweather said it best to people and, like, nobody even picked it up. He was like, when it comes to bank robbing on the best, like, Floyd Mayweather wants to get a quick check, and he can call Mike Tyson and know that because he has all these fans, all these people that want to see him no matter what he's doing, that they will even watch him fight a 59-year-old man who is, 5 weight classes above Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather probably, what he probably last fought is like a middleweight, I assume. Mike Tyson is a legit heavyweight. So, what are we doing here? Both these guys, by the way, have fought nonsense exhibition matches that have all been awful. And we're going to, again, bow our way into another one. Remember the Mayweather versus John Gotti? John Gotti's third boxing match that ended up being like essentially a riot. Remember that happened? Again, we don't, because squirrel, we're going something else. Squirrel, going something else. It's like these people actually, we're stupid. Like, they know we're stupid, so we know we'll fall for the banana in the tile pipe. So we'll see, Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather. That's interesting. I'm like, actually, it's not interesting. But I guess people say, boxing used to be great. And it pisses me off. And I'm just like, they're actually, boxing is actually, I know we just lost Terrence Crawford in terms of him retiring, but otherwise, boxing's actually in a pretty good spot overall. Like, there are some good young fighters, there's some good young champions. Errol Spence is getting back in the ring after losing to Terrence Crawford. I'm curious to see, after 3 years off, is he going to be the same fighter again? Is he going to be rusty? Like, I don't know, man. Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather in 2026 is just asinine. It just speaks to just the asinine nature of just, I think, again, this dark timeline that we're in, where we see these stupid celebrity boxing matches, and we see these I feel like it's like these are all like, I feel like we're in like the carnival. Like, I feel like it's like, who could be the most outrageous to get the most attention just for that one day, so they can get a couple of clicks and a couple of pay-per-view buys. That's all they're competing for. I don't know. Are you guys gonna watch Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather? I mean, I hope not. I hope I don't have. I feel like I have a pretty smart audience that won't just watch complete nonsense. Because this is nonsense. Floyd Mayweather, again, his last fight against Conor McGregor, I believe he was a middleweight. He last fought as a champion as a welterweight, or excuse me, when he fought Andre Berto. But the fight with Conor McGregor, I assume he was a middleweight. I mean, Mike Tyson is a heavyweight, but also, again, Mike Tyson's, however old he is, again, 59 years old when we're doing this. This is, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I know Dana White wants to get into boxing, and he did a great job promoting the Canelo versus Crawford fight, but he also wants to put into, federal laws and state laws, guidelines that allow him to run boxing with an iron fist the way he runs UFC. And he's done a good job with the promotion and development of UFC, but there are also some fighters' rights, complications that come with the way he's ruled UFC that isn't the best. And he's trying to bring that to boxing. So it's just a mess. It's just a mess. But Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson will fight. I don't know if you guys are watching. I will not watch 1 second of this. This is utterly ridiculous that it's even happening. We'll wrap the show, man. I told y'all, this is my show. My show is Love is Blind. Season 10 debuted last week. I guess the new episodes will drop tomorrow. So I don't know if there'll be a second recap. I definitely will recap by the time we get to the finale. I would say that season 10 wrapped up. They're in Ohio right now. They launched the first 6 episodes. So 6 episodes dropped last week. So this is what I was doing. If I wasn't preparing for my show on WFAN or doing 40 Days and 40 Nights, I was watching Love is Blind. That was all I had. And then an All-Star game. That was my weekend this past weekend. So I told you guys the concept of this show. If you guys want to follow the show with me, I will try not to completely give away. I will give away the couples that are together, obviously, but I'm not going to give away like anything I know for the future or anything. I'm going to tell you just my thoughts on the couples, and hopefully you guys, if you guys want to get involved in the show, you guys will watch with me, and then therefore we can have conversations about Love is Blind moving forward. But I told you guys the concept of the show is insane, but rather simple. Can two people fall in love talking to each other for 2 weeks on end without ever seeing each other, to the point where they are willing to get engaged and then get married in 30 days. Simple concept. They go to LA, they live in a hotel that's separated between guys and gals, and all throughout the day they enter what they call these quote-unquote pods, where they have dates with these women and men, and they talk about their lives and their personal upbringings and all their different things without ever talking about, at least they're not supposed to, their appearance or ever being able to see each other. So the thought process is, you go into dating, you go into the real world, you're trying to find a partner or just anybody. If it's not a partner, just somebody you're trying to hook up with or whatever. The physical dominates so much of our views of people. And the experiment, as they call it, is to see whether or not people can actually fall in love without ever knowing each other. I will say, I think and it's something people have said a bunch, one of the kind of things about the show that make it tricky in terms of whether or not we're actually learning if love is blind is it feels like they take conventionally attractive people and put them on the show. So it's very rare. Now there are issues where people have physical attraction issues. There are plenty of times where it's simply, and we're going to talk about it here, because of race, that just happens as part of it. But sometimes it's not race. Sometimes it's just, oh, I like a girl who's a little thinner, or I like a girl a little more thick, or whatever the situation may be, right? That is a part of the situation. So it's not like it doesn't happen where the physical attraction becomes an issue once they actually see each other. Because you end up seeing each other, obviously, at the end. You don't you date for 2 weeks, and then you come out of it, and then you go on a honeymoon type vacation, and you live in the real world for 30 days. That's how the show works. And you will have moments where people will say, oh, physically I couldn't get there with this person, but generally these people are generally fine looking. Some of them are gorgeous men and women. Some of them are just good looking, but you don't have again, and I say conventional. So you don't have someone who's I'm seeing somebody and hey, are you going over and, oh look, this person is obese or whatever, or this or that, all different kind of things. You don't really get that for the most part. Again, they have people of different body sizes and stuff, and we'll see it here. But it's a concept that I found intriguing. We tried to watch the first season, and we got hooked in Atlanta, and we watched it ever since. They're coming off a season where there was nobody that got married. There were 5 couples, and they all said no. So it felt like a little bit of a waste of time. So we were actually very curious how this season was going to go. What ends up happening is you see these people fall in love, and you get better as you watch the show and seeing, they look good now, but they're going to run into problems, and you see certain things. Or, they didn't get deep enough to actually really be committed to wanting to get married. So you get better at this, but what happens is you see people, they seem to not have that many pressing issues when they're blind, so to speak, and they're blind dating. It's when they get together that then you start to see the problems. And it could be small things. It could be, hey, this person is messy, or this person, I don't like the way they live their life. I don't like that they go out all the time. There's all different kind of things. So here are some of the couples. Again, you can decide whether or not you want to watch with me. We got these two, Emma and Mike. Now, Emma was in a love triangle that I'll get to in a second, but she ended up picking this guy, Mike. So Emma, it's hard to really see in this picture, but one of the things about her, so she's adopted, and she was adopted 3 years old. She's obviously, she's a Chinese woman. She was adopted to a white family. And along with her adoption, she also had what she described as she had like she had a birthmark. She had a bunch of birthmarks, and she had a huge one on her arm that they said had a high case of melanoma. So she does have a great deal of scarring on her left arm. People were talking about this on the internet. I think they might have like kind of, it seems like they might have photoshopped it a little bit, so it doesn't look quite as like when you see her in this on the show, it's quite prevalent. It didn't look quite as prevalent when you see it in pictures that Love Is Blind has put out. Again, people have wondered if they photoshopped it a little bit to not show so much of the scarring. But that really hasn't been an issue, the scarring or anything like that. What has been an issue though is this guy Mike, who by all accounts seems like a good guy, but they've dealt with an issue of, because of her medical history, and because she has no idea who her birth parents are, like none. She's like, I don't know if I want to have kids because I don't know. First of all, I just don't know if I want to have kids. Like, I don't know if I don't see myself as like a motherly type. Maybe like I kind of selfish, and I don't know if like I'm the right person to be raising a child when I still have a lot I want to do for myself. But then there's a flip side of like, also I don't know what my health history is. Like I don't know what my parents had or my grandparents had. So I feel like I'm kind of like I'd be flying blind if I bring a kid into the world, and I know I've had health issues, and I don't know what's gonna happen to my kid. This guy ain't trying to hear all that, which is why I'm surprised they got engaged, to be honest. Like, that's the thing we hear all the time is these people who will say, hey, listen, I know we have this massive issue, like, you don't want to have a kid and I want to have a kid, and we've not resolved it, but we're going to get engaged anyway. So these two are engaged. I feel like the kid thing's going to continue to come up because it seems like this is a big part of his character at this point in time, that he really wants to be a father. Why you want to get engaged to a woman who does not want to have kids, and that's the problem I see with some of these men, is it feels like they want to try to impose their will on some of these women and think that they can change their mind. They have not run into many issues besides that, and it hasn't gotten too contentious of yet. I do worry that it will eventually become more contentious, because I don't think he's really getting the hint that she don't want kids. So we'll see how this one goes, man, but I'm not feeling good about this couple at this point in time. These two, oh God, this guy. Okay, so I forgot what she does, but what's interesting too is you see their love story kind of come together. So this is Ashley and Alex. Ashley on the left, of course, Alex on the right, or my right at least. And this is a pure, like, yeah, they kind of bonded. Alex seems fine. He's a former soccer player. He actually had a pretty interesting backstory if you're a sports fan. He apparently was supposed to be like a top pick in what I believe is the MLS draft. He didn't say MLS, but I don't know what other draft he could be talking about. Like, he played like high-end D1 soccer, and he apparently had a lot of knee injuries. He had 4 knee surgeries. It's always fun when you got like the crossover of sports that come in, because they will have former athletes on here. So this is one. I'm not familiar with this guy. If you're a soccer fan, I don't know, but this is Alex, who was supposed to be a top 5 or top 10 pick in the MLS draft, and he slid because of his knee injuries. What ended up happening is they made a decent connection. He seems like a typical jock from what I could tell. I know because I was one. I wasn't typical, but I was a jock, so I've been around him. And she seemed to be digging the vibe. And then the reveal came. And this woman thought this man was the most handsome man she's ever seen. I'll admit, he's pretty good looking. This picture, I don't think, does him justice, probably. Because I think he has more of a beard now, at least. Or at least he did during the show than he does now. He's a little more scruffed there. He's definitely got, if you know, like Hassan, what's his name? Hassan Piker, who's a left-wing commentator on YouTube. He looks kind of like him when he has like the beard going. And Hassan is like he's definitely a guy that the women love. So I get why this woman, like, but she's like, yeah, I want to do with this. Like, she is not, they're not mincing words about what is the going forward now, which is the attraction. The interesting thing about this, though, is now Ashley seems like a pretty lovely, beautiful girl from what I could tell. He ain't that into her, we learned. Which also always become complicated because we've seen this before. We have guys who will sleep and do everything they want to do with these women, but then not actually be that physically into her. Because he reveals eventually that he's actually more into darker skinned women, darker haired women. He's not typically into blondes. So, and then they had a weird conversation in the last like little thing about, oh, like, were you flirting with anybody else? Because he does have a very interesting conversation with one of the other women who got engaged, talking about how her features match more what he goes for than this woman. But this woman is head over heels over this man because she just thinks he's the finest man. Like she thinks this guy's like Denzel or like, you know, Leonardo or whoever the hot guy is now. Like, yes, what's the guy? What's the guy name? The guy from Top Gun. I can't remember his name now. It's driving me crazy. It's gonna drive me crazy. Glenn Powell. She thinks the brother is Glenn Powell. So I'm wondering. This is another couple I don't think will last. I am wondering how soon will the I don't think he's into me thing actually happen for this girl, or will she be so intoxicated by how handsome she thinks this guy is that she won't find out? Very curious to see how this couple goes. I'm gonna still say no, they don't make it. Okay, these two are very interesting. This one maybe becomes a little more controversial, but to talk about it honestly, I gotta talk about it. So this is Jessica and Chris. Chris was in a love triangle also with someone else that's gonna come up, similarly to the other girl we saw, Emma. He ended up choosing this girl, Jessica, who's 6 years older. She's 38, she's 32. But the age thing doesn't seem to have gotten into the way as of yet. And they actually, at this point in time in the show, in 6 episodes, seem to be the couple that's doing the best, from what I can tell. Or one of the best. Definitely one of the top 2 or 3. But they left a little tea leaf in one of the conversations that they had going up. Because we don't see much of their love story. Like, they really showed her a lot more. They really showed Chris a lot more with this other girl, Bree. But they kind of like rushed that and then said, actually, you know what? He likes this girl better. And then he kind of just showed this girl, okay, this girl showed up. And she seems pretty cool for what I can tell. But one of the things that came up, they mentioned how she was like a nurse and like it was very hard during COVID because you're dealing with people who don't believe in science and not understanding the severity of it. And then, which he kind of says, okay, cool. Which is like, okay, he didn't give an opinion, but sure. And then, when they're on the honeymoon, because one of the things about the show as well, you don't have your phone during the whole dating situation when you're in those pods, and then when you're on your honeymoon, no phone, no access to people. You're just with your person. And she references one of the conversations, hey, like, you know, it's really kind of great not having my phone because, to be honest, the news is kind of depressing. And, you know, the way, you know, I have very strong political views, and to see what's happening in the country right now is just very difficult. And it's always funny to see these conversations because I see them and I never know what they mean. Because I'm like, well, which side are you on? Because unless they reveal, I don't like Trump, or I like Trump, or whatever the case may be, they kind of talk in riddles. It's like, well, what side are you? People have done the research in terms of going to her Instagram. It seems like she's very left-leaning, which, okay, that's fine. She's left-leaning. What's interesting is, so in that conversation, she mentions that. And brother here, Chris, goes, yeah, I know you're really into that. Which is like, you're really into that. Well, are you not into it? Do you not care about it? This is about to be your wife? And she's so upset. She's so, like, it's so noticeable to her that she doesn't have her phone to not be involved with the political issue, that she brings it up on a TV show, and you're just like, sure. Turns out this guy, in terms of his Instagram following, it seems like he's very right-wing. I don't know if this was discussed or revealed, but this is not the first time where this has happened, where you have couples who seem to have political differences. Now, there are people who have political differences with their partners, and they're able to be happy couples, and they move on with their life, and that's fine. But there are a lot of folks that would be a problem for. And what me and my fiance keep talking about is like, how do you sit there and talk to someone where you have no phone, no other distractions for 2 weeks, and you don't have a full, clear understanding of what their political views are? Like, he seems to know where she stands. I don't know if homegirl knows where he stands. I get the feeling this is going to be a problem, because every other time this has happened on the show, it has become a problem. So that's one where we're going to have to follow moving forward. I think this is another one giving a thumbs down in terms of, I don't think that they'll, I don't know if they even make it to the altar. If they make it to the altar, I don't think they get married. That's for sure. That's a big question. A, are they going to make it to the altar, make it through the 30 days, and actually get to the point of walking the aisle and saying either I do or I don't? And A, will they say I do or I don't? They strike me as a couple that won't get there. Also, there's another reason why they won't get there. I think it could be because of this. So you got these two, Connor and Bree. I'll be honest. Connor is kind of boring. He seems like a regular guy. I don't know. I'm trying to give you something about him. He just didn't. It was weird to me that this guy had both that girl and this girl Emma also were super into him. I don't feel like we even learned that much really about him or any kind of adversity he dealt with or anything in his life. So I don't know what it was that had all these women falling all over him in terms of just his personality. But I bring up this situation because what we see in the previews is that guy, Chris, used to date that girl, Brianna. So this guy used to date that girl. Then he was in a love triangle, and then he left her because he was like, well, I think she's kind of like, she reminds me too much like one of my dude friends. Because she's very much like she talks a lot. She's like, I want a Super Bowl house where everyone comes and watches football on Sundays. It's like, and I think he kind of was like, that feels like my guy friend, not my wife. So he ended up going with the other girl. And this girl, though, is having trouble with this guy because she is one of the people. What ends up happening in this, because you date multiple people, is you end up then, once you move on in the experiment, you start seeing some of these people that you used to date. And what they say in the experiment is, if you do it, it's very intense because you end up, you spend all this time together and you reveal all these things about yourself in a short amount of time, and you make this deep connection. And she is still caught up on Mr. Chris because he's like, I told this guy all this stuff about me. We had all these deep conversations. It's very weird because we don't see many of those deep conversations, but sure. And she's like, and you know, it's weird that we're having these like meetups with these people we used to date and we're not actually getting anywhere. Like they're kind of surface level conversations. Like I feel like I gave you like my life essentially, even though we decided to separate. Why aren't we having more legit conversations and more closure, I guess, to these situations? Brother here don't like it. He says he has insecurities about this, and it don't seem like she's trying to quell those insecurities at all. This is another couple I don't feel good about. The preview that they showed don't feel good about. It seemed like he threw her out of the house at one point. These episodes that are coming up. So that's been their storyline essentially. Is this guy is struggling with the fact that this girl is still caught up on her ex. There are people who get caught up on their ex. They actually like, oh, maybe I made the wrong choice. Maybe I should have went with them. I'm not getting that from her yet, which is why I'm also so confused as to why she's so hung up on homeboy. I will say I am the kind of person that I think closure is important, and I don't like unsaid conversations. So I get her to some degree, but she actually got to see Chris and talk to him twice, and then she's like, I think I need to talk to him again. And like, what point? Like, I feel bad for bro. Like, at what point? Like, he's been put through the ringer at this point. I don't know how much more he's gonna have to deal with. I don't think this is gonna go well. I think this is another thumbs down in terms of a couple getting married. I don't think they make it to the altar because it seems like he's really struggling with the fact that this girl wants to keep talking to this other guy, even though the other guy has a fiance. Doesn't make sense to me, but it's been entertaining television. Let's go to where do I want to go next? There's a couple more couples here. I want to save the other couple for last. Let's do these two. Oh, actually, no. Let's save them. Let's go to Amber and Jordan. These two have no problems. I think these two are going to make it, to be honest. She's a mother. She's 33 years old. She has a young child. She's talking about, like, you know, she has a kid. Her life's in order. She just wants a partner. She kind of had this like idea that she's not picked great men, and she did this because she wanted to really connect with somebody on an emotional level, and she's hoping that she could find a sensitive, nice man. And it seems like she found him in this guy who's like kind of like your big lovable oaf. Like, and I say that like with respectfully. Like, he seems just like a fun, lovable big guy. He seems very courteous. He seems very kind. We haven't seen many issues yet. Whenever someone has a kid, though, we've seen that potentially cause problems. We saw a couple in the last season that didn't get to the altar, essentially because one of the women realized she couldn't be a stepmom to one of the men's kids that they had, because she just realized that there's much more to being a stepmom than she realized, and she lived a certain lifestyle that required travel, required a lot of vacations, or I say required vacations, what she wanted. And that guy's like, hey, I have a 6-year-old. I can't just be like going to Tahoe for a random weekend. Like, it's not how my parenting works as a single father. So that does come up in other situations. I don't know if he's going to come up with this yet. He seemed up to the challenge. Now, to be clear, though, he did say one of my deal breakers when I came in was no kids. And then here he is with someone with a kid. But he seems really respectful. He seems like he's into it. The previews didn't look great, which is a little concerning. But I don't know. Something tells me they'll figure it out and that they'll make it. I'll say this is a thumbs up. From the episodes I saw no problems. I thought this was definitely going to work out. So I saw some of the previews, a little surprised at how contentious it seems like things are going to get. But I'm going to say they're going to find a way to make it. Let's go to the final couple that was in Mexico. Not them. Okay, these two. Oh, boy. So you got Brittany and Devontae. I said this before, and I'll say this again. And I said this, I think, to you guys last time I talked about previewing this show. I love this show. The casting is good because they create drama. But I think the casting also can create some trauma for people who actually go through the experience dealing with these losers that they put on the show sometimes. Which is why I say I would book this show for free. Let me be a part of the casting for this show. Let me interview the guys. I don't have to interview the guys. Let me interview the guys. I think I can find the guys that are actually ready for marriage and actually really serious and don't have complete walking red flags. Because this guy, man. So this is Devontae and Brittany. What we learned about this relationship is, so they talked in the pods. You're not really supposed to talk about your physical appearance or your ethnicity. You can. It's happened. But I think a lot of people prefer not to because you want to try to, again, match souls, so to speak. So she did not reveal that she was black and Latina. This is now, okay, she's talking to Devontae. But still, she didn't reveal that. You would think, okay, someone named Devontae, that might not be an issue. It seems like it might be an issue. You know, he references that, hey, like I've never dated someone. Yeah, he actually said she's Latina. I never dated something like that. He literally said something, which was like, oh brother, okay, that's a interesting way to put that. But some people aren't great talking. You know, you just don't know. I don't want to put too much into that, but like, better choice of words than saying that an ethnicity or a woman is something. So there's that. And right now, what we've seen is that apparently, like, you know, she has been someone, like, all of these couples have been very explicit about how, oh yeah, we're getting it on in this honeymoon. She initially was like, hey, she had been celibate for a long time, and she's like, I want to stay celibate for a while with you until we know that we're gonna be together, and then we could get it on like everybody else. But what ends up happening is now he's in a group with a bunch of people who are having sex and he's not, which always is another thing on the show that always ends up, not always, but sometimes can become an issue. But then what's happening though is she's like, well, my love language is still physical touch, and I'm not getting any physical touch from him because he's so afraid, I guess, or I don't know what the reason is. Like, I don't know if he's attracted to me, and he keeps trying to like talk his way around. It's not that big a deal. I just don't want to be whatever, and nothing's really working in terms of convincing her of that. But then it goes back to, this is a guy named Devontae who has said he does not date women like Brittany, which already has his issues as a black biracial man. But okay, whatever. You like what you like. That's fine. I'm not judging that. But also, I'll say this: like, you guys can see the pictures. Again, all these people are, especially the women, are conventionally beautiful. This woman is fine. I don't know why this brother would have any issues in terms of that to me is a little concerning, if that is why he can't get ahead of or past this physical connection thing, because he's, the girl eventually reveals that I told him, hey, listen, I will change my view on sex. I will give it up if it means that, we can get over this hump that we're under, where I feel like you're not really connecting with me because we're not physical. And again, it doesn't seem like he's really giving her any answers. It's like whether that would work or why he's not taking advantage of that. And I do think there's something problematic about that. Like, if you set a boundary to just give it up simply because you feel like you're not being connected to in any level, I think if I was talking to Brittany, I'd say, hey, that's probably not a good idea. probably need to just address why the guy isn't connecting with you before you just say, let's just do this so we can get it over with, when you've made this a big part of what you wanted your journey to be. So I mean, this is not going to happen. I was surprised they made it off the beach. I didn't know they were going to make it past their vacation. And maybe they won't. We'll see. The episode premieres tomorrow, so we'll see what happens for new episodes. But I'm not feeling good about Brittany and Devontae at all. So all those couples, those were the first 6 couples. They all had their pod dates. They all then went on a lovely vacation in Mexico where things seemed good, but then other things arose, because this is how this show works. There's a 7th couple who also got engaged, and we actually didn't see them in Mexico. So that's what I want to get to. I'm going to leave them for the end. So this is Christine and Victor. We saw their journey, which seemed pretty lovely. Like, they really didn't have many issues. Victor seems like a pretty nice man. He talked about, he's a Brooklyn guy, so I always root for, even though this is a show based in Ohio for this season, he lives in Ohio, he's from Brooklyn, so I'm already rooting for the brother because he's from Brooklyn, because he's a New Yorker, so I always root for the New Yorkers, just like I rooted for one of the guys from who won The Bachelorette, who ended up, getting engaged in The Bachelorette. He was from Brooklyn too, so I was like, if you're a New Yorker, I'm always going to root for you, so I'm rooting for this guy. But he seems like an all-around pretty good dude. He looks a lot like, this picture doesn't do him justice. He looks a lot like Patrick Ewing. I swear this picture doesn't do him enough justice. You may be able to see it a little bit. When he is like actually talking, or you see him on the show, he looks just like Patrick Ewing, but with dreads. It's actually like, I can't unsee it anymore. In fact, this picture's throwing me off. So I'm like, oh, he doesn't look like Patrick Ewing as much. But when he talks and he's moving, his mannerisms, he's a lot like Pat. Shout out to the Beast. But yeah, this woman also seems like a woman with pretty good head on her shoulders. They connected on all levels. They didn't seem to have many contentious things. So much so that because Netflix said they didn't have the budget to send all of the people on vacation to Mexico, they got their own honeymoon in Malibu. Like, they left LA and went right to Malibu for a week-long vacation in Malibu, which seemed nice, but we didn't actually follow them. Like, all we saw was just like these little selfie videos they did of like, hey, we're in Malibu, still having fun, still loving each other, see you later, and then that was it. So we actually don't know where they stand at this point in time. So they're kind of a little bit TBD. I feel good about this one, though. This is probably the couple I feel the best about. That I think that they will probably be fine. Thumbs up here. I am curious. It didn't really come up so much in conversations. It didn't come up in the pod because they didn't reveal what they look like. It hasn't even come up yet because we haven't seen them much on camera since they got revealed. About like, hey, like, is there going to be an issue with interracial relationship, raising black kids? That is something that apparently she's going to ask him at some point on the show, because we saw that in the preview for these upcoming episodes. So I'm curious how that's going to work. But so far, this couple looks strong. But to be clear, we also missed a lot of what their journey has been so far. So that's where the show has been, man. If you want to watch the show, I tweet about this show all the time. I'm posting about it all the time. And this probably won't be the last time. I'm not going to recap every week of Love is Blind. Maybe you'll see me come back to the finale or something like that. But I am a big Love is Blind fan. I wanted to make sure that's a part of this show because it's a part of who I am. And I want this, again, to be the most authentic version of myself. So you're going to get all of me. So that includes sports. That's going to include superheroes. That's going to include hip-hop music. And yes, that will include reality TV. But I think that's going to leave it. We're going to leave it right there. A little bit of a long episode. But that's okay. Sometimes you go off the rails and you have fun doing it. I'm EJ Stewart. Thank you guys so much for watching day 27 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. Again, we broadcast live every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. I'll be back at 6 p.m. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, and Instagram, EJ. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. I will see you guys a little bit later tonight at 6 p.m. for night 27. And make sure you check out the podcast. New Generation Podcast Network is where you'll find all of our episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I'm EJ Stewart. I'll see you guys later.